welcome to the 410th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Happy 4th of July last weekend if you live in the United States. Big shout out, big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. We've been looking back at the early appearances of the Hobgoblin in The Amazing Spider-Man and other, like Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. We're looking to who is a Hobgoblin. We're on a journey to discover his true identity. And the fun is getting there. Not so much once we get there. But actually, this week, we may be taking a slight detour because of the end of a certain show that we finally reached on this week's episode. So you can probably figure that out. I'll talk about it at the end. But if you cannot commit to a monthly commitment, that's a bummer for me. You can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. And a reminder, you can also go to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. You can go to the shop tab, and you can purchase past Off My Mind episodes or whatever for like the same price of a coffee, a virtual cup of coffee. And you actually get something besides just the thrill and satisfaction of supporting this show. But use your web browser, not the iOS app, or otherwise you'll get charged 30% more from Apple, not me. So what is going on this week? Last week. I got some stuff to say about last week. I'll get to it in just a second. This week, our movie feature is Jurassic World Rebirth. So we have great news for Jurassic Park, for dinosaur fans. We got another movie. Was it as everything you'd want it to be? We'll find out. We have Squid Game 3. So this is a part where I start to get stressed out because all episodes are out. It's a Netflix show, and I think there's 6 episodes. We're only going to cover one episode this week. I'm debating, maybe we'll do 2. I have a feeling we're probably just going to do 1, just because there's so much other stuff to cover, and I feel like it just makes the show too long, and there's a lot to go through in the first. We'll see how once we get there. Because I'll probably do that like towards the end of this episode. We also have, I guess we start off with the series finale of Star Wars Andor. So there's only 2 seasons. Wow. I have some things to say about that. And yeah. And if you watched it like a month and a half ago or whenever, you're probably like, it's about time. And you know what I'm talking about. But holy cow, we'll get there. We got another episode of Murderbot. Things are getting crazy. And we'll do, so the same thing with Ironheart. So now all episodes of Ironheart are out, but I feel like, I don't know, doing more than one episode just feels like a lot for the show, especially if you're like, man, I don't care about it because I'm an Ironheart hater or maybe just don't care. And then, trying to skip past it, and it might be annoying. So we'll see. Probably 1. Again, we'll gauge to look at the time, like how long does it take me to cover episode 3, and then comics and news. So what I will say, this past week, it's been crazy. Here's a peek into the life of Tony. So one Monday, I'm like, I'm gonna go into my classroom because I still, as I've mentioned annoyingly probably too many times, I'm switching my classrooms. I'm moving to classroom next door. I think it's a little bigger. I could be wrong, whatever. But I'm switching classrooms, so it's just a matter of moving stuff over before they're gonna like shampoo the rugs and wax the floor because I have like carpet and tile. And the floors, and just before they do everything, but janitorial's been off, in first part of summer, and then we have the 4th of July week and everything like that. But I was like, I still need to move some stuff over. I still have a bunch of stuff on the walls, like posters and stuff like that. I got like most of it moved over. But I had to do that. Get in my car Monday morning-ish. Nothing. It wouldn't start. So I'm like, what is going on? I was thinking it's like it's my starter must be out. It's like it worked Friday. It was fine, and then now it's just not working. And my wife, she's actually like, man, it sounds like your battery. But I was like, it can't be my battery because when I turn to go to start it, you got lights on the dash. And and as you're trying to turn it over, there's stuff. Because in the past where I've had a battery that's been dead or whatever, you get nothing. You get and then nothing, like no lights. So I was like, and then I was like trying to contact, like a friend of a friend type of thing, a mechanic, because it's like if I'm gonna take it to a mechanic, I want someone that's a known, quantity, Never heard back. And then I looked it up, and it turned out, I was like, it seems like it is a battery. I saw this guy's YouTube. It seemed like a real nice guy. And he like went through all the different sounds, like no sound or this sound or whatever. And so I was like, okay, maybe it is a battery. My wife's probably right, or she was right. So I was like, okay, so I basically had to get a new battery. And then I'm trying to call like different places that are like nearby. It's like, okay, so if it's my battery, probably push my car out of the garage, jump start it, drive over, get a new battery. I do not trust myself I'm sure it's super easy. And watching the guy when he actually did it, it's probably not that. I don't want to do it. I don't, I don't trust myself. I'd rather pay to have it professionally, officially, correctly installed. I think I ended up calling 5 different places because there's like one, and again, too much detail, but yeah, because being close to the 4th, people are booked or closing, and then there's this one place, there's like, oh, we'll send someone out to you, and then they're like, oh, actually, we don't have anyone in your area. So I'm like, what is going on? So finally, it was like through AAA, they were able to get it done. So that was fixed. The other thing I had this whole week was like just so super stressful is I was down for jury duty. And the way it works, I don't know where it works, where you're at. So basically, you get your jury cards. Like, here's your badge number. So you have to call 5 p.m. the day before to find out if you have to report to the courthouse and then go through the whole, maybe interview process or not. Last time I got jury duty, I had to go. And I sat there, and as they're calling up groups of people interviewing, then they found their jury, and they're like, okay, the rest of you are excused, you can go home. What happens now, and they also kind of change it, because they used to do it like, oh, you're in this group, whatever, so groups from 0 to whatever, or this or whatever, you'll report and so forth. So now when I call, you give your badge number, and they're like, you are on standby for Monday. Or no, I call Sunday. You're standby for Tuesday. So call back Monday, basically after 5 to find out. So it's like, okay, I don't have jury duty Monday. Tuesday, I have to wait till 5 o'clock. Call. You're on standby for Wednesday. So you have to do this every single night. I guess I kind of lucked out being the 4th of July is because then on Wednesday night for Thursday, they're like, you have fulfilled your obligation. Thank you, whatever. So obviously, the courts aren't open on 4th of July. So, but it's just I get it's your civic duty, American duty, whatever you want to call it. The thing is, it's just that the stress is, okay, I don't like, I wanted to go see Jurassic World on Wednesday. I was like, if I'm going to go, I want to go to a matinee, save a few bucks. But it's like, I can't buy my ticket because I don't know if I'm going to have jury duty. So I had to wait till Tuesday. It's like, okay, I don't have jury duty for Wednesday, so that means I can get a ticket for Wednesday afternoonish. And so that was my week, man, just trying to deal with that. And then Friday, went in my classroom again, didn't get as much. I was like, I forgot to bring a hammer and screwdriver. And he's like, yeah, I was like, I'm going to go in for a little bit during 4th of July, get some stuff done because, again, people might be coming in or try to do some work. And I just have a couple of things that I'm going to do that I probably shouldn't do, whatever that's supposed to be like officially done, but I can handle it. Also, yeah. Anyways, let's get on with the news because that is like the longest intro ever. And I don't think there's a whole lot of news, so that could be a good thing, as I say often. Let's start with the Old Guard 2. So that came out, I think it was Wednesday on Netflix. Charlize Theron. I I think I liked the first one. I don't really remember. I probably talked about it on this podcast, and I saw it. I was like, wow, that's I almost forgotten about that because it's based off a comic. I forgot who wrote it. I think I feel like it was. I think it was Greg Rucka, right? Is it Greg Rucka? I feel like I'm almost positive it's Greg Rucka. So I remember watching the first one, and I felt it was they did a good job with it, but it's like holy crap, that came out in 2020, 5 years ago. I know 5 years ago isn't that long, but as I'm thinking, it's like I don't even really remember how it ended. And that's the weird thing. And I know we've had longer gaps between movies and stuff like that. But that's a problem with a lot of the streaming stuff is it takes longer. And someone was talking about this. Someone mentioned like with TV shows. I mean, it used to be, we used to get 24 episode seasons every year. Because then, the seasons would wrap up in March or whatever. And then like September, October, November, you'd get the next season. These days, it's like, it's maybe like if you're lucky, you'll get the next season a year later. But these days, it's more like closer to 2 years or something. It all depends. And you can say, well, the quality is improved and this and that. But it's just weird that now we're lucky if we get like an 8 episode season. It's usually like 6 episodes. Maybe we'll get a 10 or whatever. But it's weird. It's like, why is that? Is it because everything's on a bigger scale now? Is it just, it's weird. I don't know. And I know that's different because a lot of the British shows are, the series, sometimes it's just like 4 episodes done. That's the entire series. You don't even, pretend to like, we're going to try to go further than that. And, I'm sure something like that is cool for some of the actors because you can just take this role, then you're done, move on, you do something else. You don't have to hang out like, am I going to be committed? Am I locked down, tied into this? I want to do something else. I want to do work on Broadway or do a stage show, or I want to do a movie. So it's just weird. But Old Guard 2 is out, and I didn't watch it, partially because it was in the middle of the week and everything's, I got all this other stuff to watch. It doesn't sound too great. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics' score is at a 25%, which is really low. Audience score, popcorn meter, is 41%. So audience, I think, is more forgiving, but not very much. Now, the original one, the critic score was 80%, and the audience was 71%. So that is that's not great. I did see on YouTube, I didn't actually watch it, but there is a recap video with Charlize Theron and a couple of the other actresses, like just to tell you, like, hey, this is what happened in the first one. And obviously, I'm sure whether the same clip is on YouTube or on Netflix. Netflix does a good job where most streamers, where it's like before you start the show, it's like here's a recap, what happened in the last season or whatever. But that's a bummer. So now it's the point. I don't usually listen to critics' scores. I usually try to watch stuff before, make my own choice. But that right there is not making me want to clear my schedule to watch it. So if you've seen it, let me know if I should watch it. Speaking of things I probably won't watch, the Game of Thrones, there's another prequel spinoff. This is the first I'm hearing of it, but I'm sure this has been out. People know about this. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So we're getting another prequel series. What's going on with House of the Dragon? I never watched season 2. And the reason I didn't watch season 2 is I think there's too much other shows that came out at that time. So I just didn't get it. And I don't remember if they dropped like 2 episodes at once. So that was like, okay, I'm behind already. But the main thing is me and old-timey stuff. Not my favorite, whatever. So there's going to be another show, and it's sounding like there's nothing like concrete, but it sounds like it may start early 2026. And I think that's smart, because if there is going to be another House of the Dragon, it's probably going to take a while, like what I was saying before, how it takes time between seasons. Is there a demand for more Game of Thrones stuff? I don't know. I have no idea, but maybe, There must be. So it's taking place after House of the Dragon, but it's still like 100 years before the original, the main Game of Thrones. It just seems like a lot for me. So like I said, I don't know if I'll be watching that or not, unless people are like, yeah, you gotta watch it. If you force me to watch it, because remember, I watched Dora the Explorer because I had some people kind of asked for me to watch that, but that was on a secret podcast episode. Pan Clementif. So there is a report. So here's another nothing concrete. She might be in a DC TV show as the Huntress, Helena Bertinelli. And I guess she's going to be half Korean, half Italian. I don't know because when I first heard this, I was like, wait a minute. Like, what is Helena's? I know she's supposed to be Italian because, you got the whole, like, Italian, mob family, type of stuff. So I don't know, was she ever half Korean, or is that just something they would do for the TV show? And if so, okay. But yeah, I maybe I don't know the Huntress as much as I thought I did. I thought she was just Italian, maybe. But Palm Clementif, I wasn't super crazy about her as Mantis because I found the character just a little too bubbly, too annoying or whatever, and she was fine in it. Better than Star-Lord. It was less annoying, but I really liked her in the last Mission Impossible, whatever, I don't even remember, Final Reckoning. She was good in that. So I would watch that. There's apparently no official announcement because there's no formal deal yet. They're still working on it, supposedly. Rumors, speculation that maybe she'll appear in Peacemaker Season 2. She was apparently seen on set with James Gunn during the filming, but she could just be visiting because they're friends. So we'll see. Who knows? Nobody knows, or I'm sure James Gunn knows, but I do not know. Superman. So Superman is coming out this week, which is crazy. It's here already. And as I mentioned last week, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to avoid. It's like I don't need any more Superman stuff. I do not like all the cutesy videos or whatever. And I get why you're doing that. You're trying to maybe humanize the characters, because I think Superman's like a tricky character, the way the public might see him. There's so many. Superman means a lot to so many different people, and there's been so many different versions of Superman. And of course, we got the Snyder version, which is like cruel and evil or whatever, and not just because of what he did in Man of Steel, but just the whole fighting with Batman, and then in Justice League when he comes back from the dead, he's evil and he's fighting the justice. So it's like, why for Superman, a character that's supposed to be about hope? It's like every single movie, it's been so dark, and why would you? That like defeats the hope. That's like against the whole purpose of Superman. He's supposed to be about hope, and all the Snyder appearances, he's been anti-hope pretty much. And it's like, oh no, it's overcoming the darkness and blah blah. It's like, no. But I feel like we have different versions of Superman, and I know a lot of people kind of think of him as stiff, and some people think he's boring. There's always a lot of people would be like oh, he's boring, he's too powerful, whatever. And it's like, no, that doesn't mean you just have to be creative when you tell your stories. That you have to factor all that in. Now that we got we're on the horizon, on the cusp or whatever of a new Superman, and hopefully new direction, new franchise, all this stuff. They have to show the world like, hey, you may know who Superman is, but this is who is coming. This is the Superman that you're gonna be rooting for. But I just don't care for all these videos and stuff where whatever. I did see I did see the new trailer when I saw Jurassic World, which I wasn't going to see. So that's interesting. But what is also interesting is apparently there was a scene where Ultraman punches Crypto. And guess what? It did not do well with the test audiences. Nobody wants to see Crypto getting punched because Crypto looks so immensely darn cute. So they cut that. They cut crypto getting punched. No one, who wants to see that? Who wants to see a dog? I don't care if it's a super dog or not. No one wants to see a dog get punched. And if you were like, yeah, I do, then you should get punched, because no one needs to see that. So yeah, no crypto getting punched. That is fine. One thing which I was not aware of, I'd never really thought about it, and I guess maybe I didn't even think we were going to see like Jor-El, because we're not supposed to get the origin or anything like that. So why would we see Jor-El? Do we need to see Jor-El? Are we going to get like Fortress of Solitude, Crystal, Hologram, Jor-El, whatever? It's like, do we really need that? Well, they've revealed, or James Gunn revealed who it was. I am not going to reveal it. I just came across it when I was looking for news. So I don't know if that's something that you have heard. I don't know how wide that is. I don't feel that you need to know ahead of time. And I feel like there's already so much out there, and I don't know, some people like spoilers, but just know it's out there if you want to know. Because I've been getting spoiled on different things, and I don't like it. David Cornsweet, whatever, he was like talking about some different stuff, and he brought up the Green Lantern series, and he refers to it as like an R-rated project with like a True Detective feel. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, that's cool. And I mean, it is. I'm still like on the fence with projects. I feel like comic book characters should be all ages. They don't need to be watered down for like Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends, the CG, or Iron Man and his friends type of stuff. But I mean, I guess when we look at like who are the DC movie fans, should it be adults? I mean, maybe it is adults, but we need to attract young viewers and readers. But if you're making stuff that's like mature, that means the kids can't see it. Or unless that's the incentive, kids are like, ooh, I want to see that. So we have that. There was a trailer for the Odyssey that was on Jurassic World. And it was weird because I think it was like attached to the print, because I go to the theater, got all the trailers, and then you get like, oh, Dolby Surround, digital with lasers, whatever this, and then you get the theater logos, thing, and then the movie starts. But it goes through all that stuff, but then we get one more trailer. It's like, dude, we just watched all the trailers. So we have the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan. The trailer, doesn't show much. If you've probably seen, I don't know if I'm assuming it's online now. I know it leaked online before, which is unfortunate. Hopefully people didn't see like a crap quality version. And maybe it falls into like the old-timey stuff. But okay, so we got the Odyssey. Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, I'll watch it because, it's Christopher Nolan, and, we got such a big cast. But it's interesting. I'm not really sure what the motive was, like why, or maybe why not do the Odyssey. The Boys has wrapped filming, so David, what's his name, Kripke, he posted a picture like, this is my last time, looking. I think he was in the Sevens like big conference room. So they've wrapped filming, so that is it. The final season will be coming soon. I saw someone post this on. It was like a suggested post. It was some movie Instagram account that I don't follow, but someone mentioned that Rotten Tomatoes has deleted the negative reviews for Ironheart. It is now at an 86% for critics and a 51% from the fans. And it's like people, here we go again, people just do not understand how Rotten Tomatoes works. And you look at the comment, people are like, oh, Disney's paying for reviews, or blah, 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 Rotten Tomatoes sucks, and just like that. A lot of people, when they don't agree with it, they accuse Rotten Tomatoes of skewing the reviews or whatever. Rotten Tomatoes does not give ratings. They do not give reviews. Rotten Tomatoes gathers, collates, whatever, all the reviews, and it's an aggregated score from all the different critics. So if you are a legit critic, you can sign up and have your outlet's rating can be incorporated into that. So just like with comic books, there's comicbookroundup.com. You can go there and check it out. And I thought it was cool because I never signed up for that, but when we were doing reviews for Comic Vine, somehow we were included in there. Someone, either whether they looked at it, and so you can go there and see the critics. So they are not giving reviews. Rotten Tomatoes isn't. Comic Book Roundup doesn't give reviews, but a lot of people, think that. And then so people are like, oh, so are they going to delete the fake positive reviews? It's like, no, what they did is they deleted all the negative basically all the reviews that were posted before the episodes aired. And this is what I even noticed this. I noticed this on IMDb. So IMDb still has like a low score because probably a lot of those reviews are not real. So people were as soon as they were able to, they started review bombing it. And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't understand the point of that. It's like, let's say I didn't like Brussels sprouts. I don't mind Brussels sprouts. But if I don't like Brussels sprouts, I'm going to go out to like food review sites and just give negative. I haven't tasted your actual Brussels sprouts from your garden, your store, or whatever, but I'm going to give it a negative review because I don't like Brussels sprouts and no one should like Brussels sprouts. It's just like, what is the point? Why are people so bent out of shape, so upset with something just because you don't like it? Why are you trying to poop all over it for everyone else? You don't like it, boom, give your one review. But when you're trying to falsify it, and then those are probably the same people who are like, oh, the reviews are fake. It's like, why are they fake? Because it's not what you agree with. Or is it because you take part in negative review? You falsify, you give fake reviews, so you're assuming everything is a fake review. It's just so annoying. And the other thing is, if you like, okay, let's say you don't want to watch Ironheart, you don't want to watch Game of Thrones, you don't whatever. Like, it's like the new Game of Thrones. I'm not going to go out and give out negative reviews just because I don't like old timey stuff. If I don't watch it, I have no room to give a review one way or the other. I can say, yeah, that doesn't look like something I'd want to see. That's as much as I can say. I mean, unless I actually sit there and watch it, I have no ground to stand on or whatever. So unless you watch Ironheart, and if you watch the first episode, then fine, review the first episode. But you can't review the second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth if you haven't watched them, because you have no idea what's going to happen. And I keep seeing, which is nice, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's actually not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought. Blah, people are like that. So, yeah. So, and make your own choice, but don't try to make your choice for other people. It's just, no, we don't need that. And then, speaking of what we don't need, maybe, but see here, I'm open-minded to this. There's going to be a new Cat in the Hat animated movie. When I first heard about this, I'm like, really? And I'm kind of like, I still haven't, I've never seen the Michael Myers Cat in the Hat. I like Michael Myers. I really, I like Wayne's World. I like the Austin Powers movies. I never saw the Michael Myers Cat in the Hat. It just didn't look right. And it seemed, the clips that I saw just seemed borderline inappropriate. And it's just like, I don't really need to see that. But I'm not going to go put negative reviews because I can't. And then, Art Baltazar did a Cat in the Hat graphic novel, which is amazing. I love Art Baltazar's art style, and his humor is top-notch. It's phenomenal. It's hilarious. So I'm kind of like on a Cat in the Hat high, whatever, because of that positive experience. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of dig the Cat in the Hat and everything. So now we got this Cat in the Hat movie. And Bill Hader, who I'm okay with him. He can be funny. I'm not like his top fan or anything like that. But I was like, okay, so what does that mean for him to be Cat in the Hat? So just check out the trailer. I probably won't go see it because I don't have a child. My daughter probably wouldn't want to see it. But back in the day, you used to have to see all of the animated stuff. So it might not be that bad. Watching the trailer, I'm like, this could work, maybe. So we'll see. So we have that to look forward to. That will be out on February 27th, 2026. So, but I guess it's good that we are, because I like Cat in the Hat. So, let's try to hopefully it will do it justice and it will keep the love, for Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss, new kids, new readers, new fans, all that stuff. But that is going to be it for the news this week. With comic books at Image Comics, Adventure Man Family Tree #3 came out. I'm so behind on that. I just want to mention it because people should be reading it. I should be reading it, but yeah. So check that out. Not a whole lot from Image this week. We did have the Old Guard Volume 1 hardcover, so I'm assuming it's a new hardcover edition. I haven't seen that. There was G.I. Joe Real American Hero 318. This was kind of interesting because, well, one, I just want to say, man, Paul Pelletier's art, I just dig his art. I love seeing him doing the G.I. Joe characters. Something about it. It's just like just so solid. But we have some different things. We have the Joes have infiltrated Springfield. They're posing as one of the Red Guard's family, and which is kind of interesting that, it's like, can they pull that off, or are other people going to notice or not? That's all I'm going to say about that. We also have Storm Shadow, and who's he with? They're like trying to infiltrate, and they're headed towards Dr. Mindbender's lab while other people are occupied. And then we also have the situation it's Springfield itself. They're like, well, what do we do? Because Cobra's not here, and they got plans that they're supposed to be following or setting in motion. But Cobra Commander is at Destro's castle in Scotland because Destro defeated him, captured him, and it appears that Cobra Commander has sneakily brought some tools to help him escape that somehow maybe Destro wasn't aware of. So there's some things going on there. So fun times there. We also have Sisterhood, a Hyde Street story #1. So this is, I think that's what it's called. This is basically it's like a Hyde Street Ghost Machine, from Ghost Machine. It's like basically a spin-off. It is a character that would, I assume, reside on Hyde Street, and these people, these beings, whatever you want to call them, I feel like they're not the nicest people, because they're trying to do what they're trying to do, but I don't even know how much to say about this. Where it's kind of a tragic story in a way, and will it have a positive outcome or not? I guess that's the question. And what I found interesting is I assumed this was just gonna be like a one shot, but no, this is like a mini series. So we're continuing from there. So it's written by Maytal Zchut, Zchut. Lila Lees does the art, and Alex Sinclair does the color. I like Alex Sinclair. He's such a nice guy if you're at a convention where he's at, so go say hi to him. Basically, it follows these two girls. There's tragic incidents during their youth. These two friends, and then they're in college, and another tragic incident, and then it kind of gets a little dark and goes from there. That's all I want to say. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, so you should check that out. At Marvel, oh boy, we had All New Venom #8. I'm really not sure what the make of this series. Because I think I may have mentioned who the new Venom is. I'm not super thrilled by that. I am curious where the heck this is going to go. Like, how long is this going to stick? The way it is now, it seems like it has to be like a permanent thing. Like there is a reason, if you read, I think it was issue 5 or 6, where we see like why they have joined. And I think I may have mentioned it again. I don't want to spoil it, even though it should be obvious. And until we see the character on the regular covers, I don't really want to spoil that in case you missed the last time I talked about whatever. But It's an interesting choice. It seems a little. It almost seems a little desperate. It almost seems a little not desperate, but maybe a little. What's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's not a gimmick, but it's definitely something meant to get people talking, and it's an interesting choice. So that's why I'm willing to read it. I haven't been reading Venom, before all of this. But this is, I mean, if so, say whether it's a gimmick or not, it's working because I'm reading Venom. I want to see where this is going to go and how they're going to handle this. I don't like this anti-symbiote organization that we have. The thing that just bothers me is how, it's like yeah, you have to have your villains in your books to move stories, along and all that. But it's like such a mustache twirl. It's like I don't even think this I don't even remember her name because that's how little I care about the character. But I don't even think she's like in charge of the organization. But she's like making all these decisions. Like yeah, we're gonna kill all symbiotes and use them for fuel or whatever because they're aliens. So it's like and yeah, I'm sure there's people that have this viewpoint. But it's a living thing. But you do not care. You feel it has no rights whatsoever, so you're just going to do what you want. But that just seems crazy, especially when we had the whole King in Black symbiote invasion, whatever. So you're gonna, you're just gonna kill this alien species where there's a handful of them on Earth. A dozen. How many are there? When there could be like loads more out there that are gonna come for justice or whatever, and it's just like. I don't know. And then the fact that we have Dr. Octopus is working here. So like what kind of organization? It's like, okay, we're going to use a criminal supervillain to run our science division and give him kind of free reign to do what he wants to do. It doesn't, I don't know, it seems kind of silly. But there we go. Amazing Spider-Man #7. A friend of mine really does not like this issue, this new villain. I'm okay with it because while it's not like maybe my first choice of a type of villain, I appreciate when a writer like, let's create a new villain, because how many times have we seen Spider-Man fight Scorpion or Mysterio or Kraven? It's like I don't want to keep seeing the same villain over and over and over again, especially when Spider-Man has defeated them over and over and over. It's not as exciting because you're like, okay, maybe they're going to try to learn from their mistakes, or maybe they're going to try to amplify them, do something, whatever. They're going to get defeated. Versus while we have someone new, chances are Spider-Man is going to defeat them at some point. But the fact that they're new, that makes it like, who knows? Maybe he won't, because maybe he's not sure what to expect. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. The Avengers #28, Masters of Evil finale. It's over. It was okay. My problem is just the Mad Thinker as like the main mastermind villain. And yeah, he's supposed to be a genius, but he's a dork of a character, and for as smart as he is, he's never really been a top tier villain. So it's just kind of silly that like how far he took things and whatever. Captain America #1, Our Secret Wars Part 1. So this is by Chip Zdarsky and Valerio Schiti, and Frank Martin does the color artist. So what's interesting choice here? We don't currently have a Captain America comic. We don't have Sam Wilson or Steve Rogers comic. So it's like, okay, now we got Captain. We just had Sam Wilson. That one ended. So now it's time for Steve Rogers, because I guess they don't want to do 2 Captain America comics at once. Maybe people get confused. I don't know. So we got a new Captain America comic, but it's not taking place in the present. It's taking place like a week after he was found by the Avengers in a block of ice. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. Chip Zdarsky does a good job in capturing that moment and the vibe and the energy, and it'll be cool to see like first encounters of different things. But it's kind of weird that we don't have like a regular ongoing Captain America, that we have this. So I'm okay with this. And because like the last Captain America, last Steve Rogers comics, it was okay, but I didn't really care for the villain, and it got a little weird. Okay, then we have Daredevil 23. When I first saw this cover, I was like, wait a minute. I thought Daredevil had defeated this plant thing, but it's like it's there on the cover, and then now as I read this, I don't think he's not. Well, I guess because there's a new organization. Yeah, so that cover doesn't really fit. Am I looking at the right cover? It doesn't really fit so much. So Daredevil, there's some new players in town that Daredevil has to deal with. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. What was annoying is Daredevil's old new girlfriend. So they had hooked up long ago. I don't remember that happening. I must not have read those issues. But they've kind of hooked up again. And one of the things that as I'm reading this, because you see, I think there's a moment where Daredevil's like lying in bed next to, maybe was it this issue where they're like lying in bed next to each other because they're involved romantically or whatever you want to call it. But it's weird when you think about, because Daredevil was just with Elektra like not that long ago, and then he's like hooking up with someone else right away. Matt Murdock gets around, and what's interesting is, as hardcore religious as he is, I mean, he was just a preacher, and then he's having all this premarital sex, which isn't that against the biblical ways? I don't know. And then the other thing that was a little unfortunate is Taskmaster shows up here, and it's like, okay, Taskmaster has been in a Daredevil comics, and his attitude seems to have lightened up a little bit. He's still a mercenary. He's still going to do bad things, but what we've seen in Daredevil is he kind of has a little bit, some sort of morals in that, but then now he's here again, which I guess it's not too far off, but it felt a little weird because he's got his other thing going on there. So I don't know. But then going back to Daredevil's girlfriend, where she's just like, where you they're not committed. She's like, we're not tied down. We're keeping things light, whatever. But he keeps running off at night. So she's like, where are you going? Where are you going? And yeah, it's just like, okay, well, we'll see where that's going to go. Let's see what else we had. Daredevil kills the Marvel Universe one last time. Number 4, not reading that. We had Godzilla versus Thor. I haven't been reading any of those, so I don't know. They're all connected. Helverine. And I don't know. Every time I say that title, it makes me laugh for some reason. I can't explain it. See, we got Mortal Thor. I'm curious what's going on in there, but not enough to actually try reading it. I feel like it's too late now because this is issue 25. Yeah, I haven't been reading this for 25 issues, so I have no idea what's going on. Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. This is continuing. It's a part 5, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to read that, where she's like out in space or something, multiverse traveling. I don't know. We had Star Wars. I didn't read very much. Star Wars Jedi Knights. No idea what this is going on in this series. Looks like we have Count Dooku, young Count Dooku on the cover. Looks like we have Yaddle. If the story with Yaddle, that makes me interested in reading it, but probably won't. We have Ultimate Wolverine. Not going to read that. And I'm not really crazy about the idea of Illyana and Peter Colossus like being evil. It's like, oh, they're evil Russians, and they have Wolverine as like their Winter Soldier, and they're trying to make him do bad things. And I think Kitty Pryde's in this issue. I don't remember because I'm not reading it, so I think she may have popped up before. I don't know. Wolverines and Deadpool's number 1. So when I saw this mentioned in last week's Deadpool, I'm like, that seems kind of weird because Wolverine, Logan and Laura don't really like hang out so much, but now they're supposed to be hanging out, and we have Deadpool and his daughter Ellie. So we're gonna have all of they set it up where it's like, okay, it kind of makes sense how it's basically Deadpool arranging for the four of them to team up. But so there's some remote country, mutant children are being taken, so it's like they have to save the kids, and it's up to all four of them to get there, and there was hints once we see like who is responsible. I'm like, dag nabbit, which, and that's not what I said, but it is a character that one of the multitude of characters that I can't stand. Villains is just like, ugh. So yeah, and there was kind of hints at it, and I didn't even pick up on it. Ugh. But I'll keep reading that. X-Men 19. This was basically Doug Ramsey's story, a revelation or whatever you want to call him. Him and his wife, actually I don't even think, are they married? I don't remember. She was from Iraqi or whatever. Is that how you say it? And we got Warlock, and so they're basically doing their own thing because Doug is supposed to be the heir to Apocalypse, blah blah blah, and then we see like there's another group like after him, so things kind of get heavy in that. So it was it wasn't bad. We'll see where that's going to go because some crazy things kind of happen. Then we got X-Men. What is this even called? Is this like Hellfire or something? It's Hellfire Vigil, and yeah, it was like over 50 pages of comics, and I just didn't really care for it. It's written pretty much by like all the current writers and teams. We got Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, Jed McKay, Stephanie Phillips, Gail Simone, Eve Ewing. So pretty much like everyone took turns like writing different stuff, and yeah, I didn't really care for it. It's just kind of weird. Because it's not a real like Hellfire Gala, but it's close enough. They're all gathering, and it's supposed to set things up. So we see characters interacting, which is good because they're all mutants. They're all mutants or X-Men, whatever. So there should be some interaction between them, some acknowledgement and checking in or whatever. We do see like some characters kind of like crossing over from books, like oh, these two are a couple or getting together maybe or whatever. So it's that'll be weird. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to do more with that? Yeah. But then it's almost like I feel like this was like a showcase for all the books because we're kind of seeing little things because there's like some stuff like with Phoenix, and then there's some major stuff with Storm, which I don't understand what that means, and how soon are they gonna deal with this upcoming revelation? So yeah, I don't know, and I don't know who did the art for Psylocke. Psylocke, like when I saw it, it's like that doesn't look like Psylocke. Her hair, it's like the coloring in her hair. It's almost like a light green, and it like shouldn't it be like closer to purple? And I don't know, just her, yeah. So we'll see. I haven't really been like super excited for the X-Men in a long time because the House of X stuff, the Krakoa stuff, that got kind of crazy, and it's the fall of everything. I don't even know what to think, and it really bums me out because X-Men comics are so great, and it's like now it's hard to just get into it. So it bums me out. But who knows? At DC, we had Absolute Green Lantern #4. I'm not sure what to make of this one. Like with as I keep saying about the Absolute books, I do respect the fact that it's turning things like not even upside down. Things are so different, and that is important because as I've said many times with these books, if you're just going to do the same thing, what's the point? Why call it an absolute whatever if it's the same stuff as in a regular book? But also, like the converse to that is like, don't just give us something totally weird and bizarre just to make it different, because that seems weird as well. So I don't know how I feel, because I really like Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, and basically he's not a Green Lantern. It's just some weird choices. We do get some information like about one big thing that has happened before. I don't know how I feel about right now. Like, if this book just suddenly ended, and like no one told us, and there was never another issue, I wouldn't like miss it. But yeah, I don't know what to make of it. It's just I hope people are enjoying it, but I'm just like kind of struggling with like, okay, Justice Society of America, this is fine. The hard part for me here, which has its value, but it's just the fact that the team has been like so obliterated. They're just backs against the wall and totally like almost like deconstructed, and so it's good to see a team like struggling, and because you don't just want to read about a team winning, because that's not exciting, but just like all this stuff that's been happening. We're at issue 9, and it's like there hasn't been a moment of reprieve, or a moment to celebrate anything. So it's just like, how long is this going to go on? And that's one of the things I'm finding lately, is like when we have these super long story arcs with like the same thing, it just feels like we're not getting anywhere. And I'm not saying that I want like 2-issue wrap up, but it's just like, let's do something. I don't know. Birds of Prey, number 23. I'm trying to remember if I read the last issue, because this starts off, so spoiler for last issue if I didn't read it or you didn't read it, but basically some of the Birds of Prey, they're outside Barbara's place, and there's like a big explosion. So it's like, what happened to Oracle? They want to rush in. Has she been attacked? Has she been destroyed, killed? It's like, what's going on? So they want to rush in, but they're like, we can't, because the protocol says if a place is compromised, that you have to go your separate way, and then meet up at a certain place. Like, I think it was like 3 hours later. And so as much as they want to go in and check, like, is Barbara fine? What's going on? It's these protocols were set, mainly by Barbara herself, by Oracle. So, we're trying to figure out like what's going on there. So, yeah, R.I.P. maybe. We have Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2. There's some interesting things here. One thing I'll mention, I don't think it's on the cover. Yeah, there's a giant killer croc, because I think it happened at the end of did we see it last issue? So Kong versus a giant killer croc. It's like, what? So Lex Luthor, what are you doing? And Lex has some crazy plans, and things aren't going too well for the heroes, because it's like there might be a little more prepared than the heroes think. Like a Peacemaker has something that kind of takes out someone, and they weren't expecting that. And Luthor, he wants to go to not Middle Earth. What's that place called? But yeah, so there's he's trying to figure out a way to lure Superman there, because Superman is not going to be so powerful down there because there's no sun. So, and then one thing that's cool is like at the end we do see some familiar faces if you've seen any of the movies. So I'll just say that. Then there's Batgirl, number 9. Batgirl must die. So there are some people that are gunning for Batgirl. I haven't read the last story arc. So something possibly pretty drastic happens to a character, which leads Cassandra to Bronze Tiger. So basically someone on their deathbed, they're like, you need to go to Bronze Tiger and say these 2 words or whatever. So he's trying to figure out. And at first when it was coming out, I was like, I bet I know what's going to happen. And I was right. So big changes are coming, and we'll have to see, will this stick, or will we find out, oh no, this wasn't actually true, or will editorial or writers just like, whoops, we forgot about that. So yeah, it's we'll see how this goes. And it's too early to say, like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? It's really going to depend on how this story arc continues and how things are fleshed out. So I'm open to it. I feel like it's not necessary, but I'm okay if this is the case. So there's me tiptoeing around a pretty big spoiler if you haven't heard about it already. And then that is it that I read. There was a Secret 6, number 5, which I didn't like the first issue, so I have no idea if this has gotten any better or not. We got Resurrection Man, we got Gotham City Sirens, and Teen Titans Go, which number 5. I wonder how that is. But that is going to be it for comic books this week.
And now, finally, Star Wars Andor, Season 2, Episode 12, the final episode, Jedha, Kyber, Urso. Oh, man. So, I mean, if you go back and listen to, I was kind of like a curmudgeon. I was just like, Andor's like so many episodes, so much stuff, nothing's happening, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my goodness. 360, man. I am 360, 180. How about 180? I'm completely, well, I mean, I liked it before. I always appreciated all the little details, but I felt like there was a lot. And I will stick to what I said, where I feel like in some cases there was like, it was too much. That being said, I don't really, as a viewer, I don't want to complain that there's too much detail, that there's too much stuff, because that's all great and important, and because now it's over and now we don't have anything. And at some point, you know, I plan on going back and, you know, watching these again and just enjoying everything. But from my personal, you know, reviewing aspect, it was too much. And it really, I feel like there was also the pressure of, we're dropping 3 episodes, you know, 3 hours every week. I was like, I can't commit the 3 hours when I'm watching all this other stuff too, and on top of everything else. So that was, you know, always kind of biased me a little bit. And I'm like, there's just so much. If it would have been one a week, I probably, you know, my attitude would have been more positive than it was. It's an amazing show. But I will still stick with what I said before, that I feel like there was a lot of extra stuff that from you know, it was not crucial. It's great that we had, like, there's so much stuff with like Dedra and what's that guy's name? I forgot his name already. But there's just like a lot of little detail, and it's important because, you know, as we get to the conclusion, you get to see like where everyone's gone and what's happened. I still will stick to what I said about the first 3 episodes, where, you know, when Andor he steals a TIE fighter, that other TIE fighter, and he's on that other planet, we see those people, and it's like, I had no idea what that planet even was, and it wasn't really clear because he's there's this conflict, and then he takes off, and it's like, well, what was that all about? And there's no discussion of those people, like who's going to survive, who's not. And so it's just little things like that where I feel like in some cases it would have helped, like how Amazon has the X-ray feature. Like if you pause it, sometimes they'll give you like whatever trivia and stuff on a scene. I feel like there's a lot of different people, and maybe I'm just like horrible with names, but a lot of times I'm like, wait, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? I'm constantly, it's like I have a tab open on my millions of tabs that are open on my laptop. What's like Star Wars? So I'd be like, Star Wars, this character, Star Wars, and I'm like, wait, who is this character again? And some of them is like trying to remember their names, and it's like, okay. And for like the longest time, stupidly, I was like, what was Mon Mothma's cousin's name? It's like, oh, it's Veld. I know that now. But what I will also say is this was an amazing conclusion. It makes every little bit that I complain about, all the frustration I had about trying to keep up with the schedule and everything like that. I mean, it makes it all worth it for me. And I hope, as you've been slowly listening to me cover just one episode a week, that your patience has held out. because it's been such a great show. When I saw Rogue One, I really liked the movie Rogue One. I feel like they did a good job. And there's something, I don't know what it is about it. I just really, really enjoyed it. And I thought it was a cool movie, even though the ending seems like, okay, that's it. They did all that. And also the fact that it's like, well, we know where things are going. So it's like, was this really necessary? No, but it was interesting to see this. This series is like that, but like times 100, because we get so much more information. And what I say to people who haven't watched it, who haven't like watched Star Wars stuff, I'm like, there's like, the Empire is horrible, is like, such a piece of crap and everything like that. But and I even said this, I said this to my daughter, I was like, you should watch this. I was like, yeah, even though we see the Empire blow up a planet, you don't really see how it affects the like individual people and planets and stuff like that. We just have that, oh, that planet's gone, there's some rubble, but you don't really, it's almost like you don't feel it because it's just implied. And it'd be one thing, and not that we need to see like, oh, the planet is shake, because there's no time for all that stuff. It was like instantaneous, it seemed like. So the amount of detail and everything, and you just really see how horrible the Empire is. And even people, I mentioned it, like, if you don't do your job, you're going to get killed. It's like, great motivation there, great way to instill loyalty. It's one thing, it's like, oh, you'll get a promotion. It's like, no, you'll get to live if you do your job. So it just really shows how horrible the Empire is, and people still, are excited for it. And I guess there's some parallels to that, where, you look at some, people that are leaders, quote unquote leaders, doing horrible things, and other people are still okay with that. It's like, I don't understand. It's like, are you just not aware of what's happening? Or you're like, well, it's not affecting me, so that's fine, because I'll be comfortable in my little corner here, and as long as I make it, I don't know. Let's get started. So episode 12 starts off, Clea is still contemplating Yavin. She's like, Yavin, and she's like, they're in an apartment. They're not aware that there's a tactical squad coming after them. And she's like, what a bitter ending after all this. And Andor's like, it's not over. And, he's like, you're keeping Luthen alive. You can rest there. And she's like, as a prisoner. He's like, as a hero, you need to see the place that you helped build. And Melchi's, it's like, you need to tell them what you told us. And Andor's like, I'm not leaving you here. So he starts like, he unplugs the radio or whatever like that. And Partagaz in the communications room or whatever, the big room, he's trying to find out like why they lost transmission. And, the radio worker or whatever, I don't even know what you'd call her. She's like, well, it's not something on our end, so it must be like the ship, something went wrong there. On the ship, we see the pilot's head's kind of like smash on the console. It's like there's like some smoke from the console. K2SO just like walks off. And I have I need to watch Rogue One, which I didn't mention that. I plan on watching that again. And maybe I'll as someone suggested, I should do like a secret podcast episode, just talking about everything, which I'm going to try to do that for the following, maybe this week. So but anyways, what I was saying is, I feel like I like K2SO when I watched the movie, because how could you not? But here I don't know, I fell in love with them again or whatever, or just I don't know about fall in love, but I just have a new appreciation for them. So we see troopers exit the elevator, and now it looks like they're on the right floor, because before, like, the hallways were like really clean or bright or whatever, and this one where they're at is a little more dingier. So they got out the exit, or they got out the elevator, and they got their blasters out. Here it tells them, he's like, it's the last one on the left, because he's got the scanner, so he's able to trace the signal or whatever. Andor, he puts the radio on the floor, he like shoots it to just like destroy it, and Clea grabs her small bag, whatever, her essentials, and I think he's like, that's it, whatever. So the guards are moving closer, out in the hall. The squad commander tells them to tighten up. He's like, 2 with me, 1 flank, and he tells they have it from here, so he like tucks away like in a corner, or like a little like alcove, whatever, in the hallway. Melchi exits first, and as soon as he goes around a corner, the commander yells like, you can stop right there. Andor gets Clea to move back into the apartment, and the commander yells like, "Slowly, raise your hands above your head, no sudden movements." And he's just sitting there like a deer in the headlights. He raises his arms like slowly, but then he darts back in. Here tells them, he's like, "Hold your fire," because they want them alive. Melshi jumps back into the apartment and moves a closed door, but Andor's like, "No, leave it." So they want to keep the doors open. So all three have their blasters pointed at the door. The commander's like, "This is ISB." He's like, "This is a warrant search. This is your first and final warning." Andor asks Melshi, he's like, "How many?" He's like, I don't know. You didn't get a chance to see. And then it's a dark hallway, and they're like behind each other and stuff like that. So the commander's like, "I need to see open hands. I need to see them now." Andor asks Clay, this I thought was kind of silly. He asked Clay if there's another way out. But if that's the same apartment that him and Bix lived in, he should know that no, there's not. Because she's like, not one that they have time for. So maybe I don't know. But Melshi says that, they can still close the door. And Andor's like, "We'll be trapped." And Melshi's like, "As opposed to what?" So Andor tries calling, K2SO, but the comms are still down. So he has no idea, what's going on out there. Out front, we see there's like a guard standing close to the elevator by the building. Then he hears clunk, clunk, hears K2SO like clomping down. And he must have grabbed some guy off camera because, he grabs him, slams him down. And a dude by the elevator, he's like, stop there. And K2 just like lifts his foot, push, kicks him. The guard goes flying back and like hits like the elevator. In the hallway, the commander asks for a stunner. And so they look like smaller thermal detonators. They look like the same shape and everything like that. So a tiny bit smaller. He tosses it, and it bounces and lands at their feet in an apartment. And they all just kind of stare at it as like they're really caught off guard. I don't know if this is new technology or what. I don't think so. But it kind of lights up like big, like there's a bright light and a little like concussion, like there's an explosion. Push, it like knocks them back. They slam into the wall. Clea she was further. I don't know why she got the worst of it. She slammed, maybe because she was closer to the wall, because she like hit the wall like with her head, and they're all like knocked down. And so the commander yells like, "Go, go, go!" Melshi starts like shooting. They're like shooting back because there's like a little turn. So it's not like they're just going straight down the hallway. They have to go, and then there's like maybe 5 feet, if that, maybe less, in this little like turn to get into like their apartment. So Andor, he can barely see because there's smoke and everything, and first from the bright light. He reaches a Clea. He like blindly it's like shooting out the door, but there's like no one there. He can't really see who he's hitting. The elevator opens. K2SO steps out. He's on floor 27. He has a blaster in his hand. Partagaz asks, he's like, "What's the closest tactical unit that we have there?" And the lady's like, "Well, apparently everyone's out running down an emergency disease warrant," which is the story that they came up for, like why they need to hunt down Clea. They said that she's escaped from the hospital and she's got disease, so she's contagious. Kay shoots like one trooper. Here turns and shoots, but then Kay grabs him and he screams. The tactical commander turns around. He yells for Kay. He's like, "Stop right there." He's like, "Don't come any closer. I'm not telling you again." He shoots at K2SO, but Kay's like using here as a shield. So even though he's got the body armor, I mean, it must go through. I mean, or he's feeling it because it's just choo 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 choo. And I was gonna like, how many times he get shot? He got shot so many times, and I debated like rewinding it and like counting, but he's got shot a lot. So then the commander calls for a flank on him, and Andor manages to shoot one dude who turned to look at the commander. Melshi moves back by Andor and Clea. Then they see a trooper slam back against like the corner wall. Then there's a pause, and then K2SO steps in the doorway, and he's like, "Cassian, I cleared a path." So they both put their guns down and catch their breath. So then the communications lady with Partagaz, she's calling for any TAC team to respond. She's told that she has to wait, and she says that this should be open priority, that they need units immediately. So Melshi's carrying Clea while Andor and Kay are walking behind them, and they're just like casually walking outside down that like long like bridge walkway or whatever. And he kind of gives the place like a final look back. I was like, are they going to blow it up? They shouldn't blow it up because there's other people there. They don't. But maybe he just kind of, he spent a lot of time there. He is never going back there again. So it was probably like he just wanted to give it one last look. Good or good, better or worse, him and Bix, spent a lot of time there. So then they're in their ship. They take off. As they're flying away, 3 Imperial crafts like buzz past them as they leave, but they have no idea, they're too late. So Melshi and Andor kind of tend to Clea on the ship. Cassian tells Melshi to make sure that she stays awake. And then he goes up in the cockpit with Kay, who says, he's like, I assume any doubts about my value have been erased. But Andor, of course, doesn't say anything. He's just like, you can speed up now. So then Kay's like, you're welcome. And then Andor is just like, hard right coming. So it's like he refuses to acknowledge or, just whatever, give him any thanks or anything like that. Because he saved him. If it wasn't for K2SO, they'd be done. They'd be alive, but they'd be, in prison. On Yavin, Mon, Bail, that Draven dude, they have like a holo call with Saw Gerrera, and he's like, explain this. Tell me why whenever I'm being scolded for troubling you, I'm reminded the rebellion is bigger than all of us, and yet when you feel inconvenience, all I hear is how small and how fragile it's all become. And Mon's like, this is more than inconvenience. And Saw's like, why should I believe anything you say? And she's like, we know you're on Jedha. She's like, we know you're picking off Imperial transports. We're trying to share what we hear about how dangerous that is, making things for all of us. What you know, what you hear, poking out my window. How many more meddling squealers have you sent my way? And Mon's like, I'm trying to help you. You've already got an Imperial destroyer on site. Keep hijacking these transports. That'll be the least of your problems. You have no idea where I am. All your spies and infiltrators. You think I'd still be alive if I hadn't learned to bend them as I wish? And she's like, it's the Empire that's after you, Saw, not us. If only you could fight as well as you lie. And there's like a slight pause and he ends the transmission. And Mon just like sighs. Bail asks if they're sure that he's on Jedha. And Draven nods. Mon says that, he's been warned. Bail says that, he's insane. And Draven's like, no, he's not. He's like, we've been probing his team for over a year now. It's an active operation. And Mon's like, which is how you're sure he's on Jedha. This other dude comes in. We've seen him before. He must be like Draven's like second or something like that. He tells that Admiral Radis requested that he joined him. So he said the missing U-wing. He's like, there's a situation. And Draven's like, have they found it? And the guy doesn't say anything. He's like, looks at everyone in the room. And he's like, well, speak up. So the dude's like, apparently it's coming in hot, unauthorized, and requesting landing coordinates. And Draven's like, I'll be right there. And Bail's like, is this Andor? And Draven's like, I believe so. And Bail's like, with a stolen ship on an unsupervised mission? Bail comes off as like such a like piece of crap here. He's like so unlikable. And then Draven's like, well, you could make that case. And Bail's like, incredible. He's like, he's so incredible. It's like ridiculous. And Draven just like leaves. And then Mon's like, makes the Senate look easy, doesn't it? So Bail is just, I don't know what his problem is. So in the communications room, this dude says that they're still transmitting. And then I don't know if this is that Admiral dude, but a big like Mon Calamari guy. He must be in charge. He tells Draven, he's like, you're lucky Merrick's away. He'd go shoot it down himself. And Draven's like, let's hope that's not necessary. So on the U-wing, Andor tells Kay to try again. Kay's like, it's not the comm unit. And he's like, try it again. He's like, should have filed a flight plan. And then there's, pause. And he's like, nothing. And Melshi's like, why aren't they answering? And Kay's like, we could be anybody. And Andor's like, they'll figure it out. And Melshi's like, we're getting close, aren't we? And Kay's like, I suspect we'll be shot down as an enemy probe. And Andor's just like, shut up, Kay. But disobeying orders is so refreshing. 2 X-Wings fly up behind a U-Wing. This is a restricted orbital air lane. We have engaged targeting. Failure to comply with our specific commands will trigger immediate destruction. And K2's like, I plan to tell them I was kidnapped. And as they're flying by, he like looks out the window. He kind of like waves at them. In the hangar, an alarm sounds. Willman's there, and he joins the others. They're rushing to the where the U-wing lands. They have like their weapons drawn. The door opens. Andor steps out, and Draven yells. He's like, "Stop right there!" And Andor's like, "She's injured." And he's like, "Who else is with you?" Kay steps forward to the door. He kind of bends over. "Hello." Andor's like, "Just us. She needs a doctor, please." So Draven thinks for a second. He tells dude like next to him to take her to sickbay, and he tells the others like, "Weapons down." So 2 dudes like help Clea. And he's like, "You, droid." And he's like, "Me?" And he's like, "Power down this ship. Walk away, then power down yourself until further notice." And one guy like takes Melshi away. And Andor's like, "I have important news." And Draven's like, "I certainly hope so. Come with me." So they go to that holo whatever room, the command center or whatever for the leaders, I guess, the higher ups. Bail, Mon, and Mon Calamari and two others are there. They're these two other senators. Bail asks if this is everyone, and Mon Calamari says that they don't have a quorum. But Bail says to Andor, he's like, Captain, apparently you've been chasing something you feel is worth violating every rule we live by. And Andor's like, not exactly. I went to save an old friend. Of that, I'm guilty. It's what I learned when I got there that made us come back so recklessly. And he's like, you went to save Luthen Rael? And Andor's like, Luthen is dead. And Mon kind of looks at him. The room gives like their full attention. You can feel them just like, what? He's like, we found Clea at the old safe house. She has some very urgent news. This one lady senator, she's like, so where is she? And Draven's like, she's been taken to the infirmary. And Mon's like, is she all right? And Andor's like, she will be. So Bail's like, well, let's have it, Captain. He's like, Luthen Rael had a source in the ISB, a supervisor. He was hidden there for years. Yesterday, on Coruscant, Luthen was called to an emergency meeting. The source told him that he just learned that the Emperor's secret energy project was a cover story for the manufacture of a weapon. Bail's like, that's hardly a secret. We've been funding it for years. And Mon's like, without details or inspections. And then the Mon Calamari's like, what kind of weapons are we talking about? And Luthen's like, I don't know about the weapon. The lady's like, then what's the point? Mon's like, let him finish. Andor's like, Luthen was told there's a connection between the Gorman destruction, the Kyber mining on Jeddah, and an Imperial engineer named Galen Erso. So the lady senator is like, all of this conveniently wrapped up in a big energy program basket. I'm just reporting what he was told. Then the other senator dude, he's like, it sounds like a paranoid fantasy. And Andor's like, Luthen Rael died for this. The lady's like, and how has that been verified? And he's like, scoffs. He's like, are you serious? And then Draven's like, Captain. And Bail's like, the problem, Captain, is Luthen. I know you share a long history, both of you, looking at Mon. It's hard not to wonder if your judgment here might be less than objective. And Andor's like, I'll have to disagree. It's everything I know about Luthen that makes me believe this is real. The lady senator's like, we're talking about someone who's been a thorn in our side since we began building this alliance. And Andor's like, did you know him? Any of you? Does anyone in this room, besides Senator Mothma, have any idea how much you owe him? And then the senator dude kind of pinches his nose. He's like, oh, please. And he sighs. And Andor's like, when I say I know Luthen, I mean I know the good and the bad. I know what was wrong with him. I had a front row seat on that. And I made my choice 2 years ago to join here and be part of this. But none of that can take away what he did and how hard it was. I don't know if what he was told is true or not, but it's insulting to hear him run down by people who haven't given a fraction of his sacrifice to this rebellion. And Bail's like, enough. When's the last time you two spoke? He's like, a year ago. And the lady senator's like, a year ago? And Andor's like, when he had me rescue Senator Mothma from the Senate. And Bail kind of at first, he seems like he smirks a little bit. It's like, okay, Andor had to save her, and Bail's plan was a piece of crap because one of his people, one of his teams was an actual ISB spy double agent. And so if it wasn't for Luthen sending Andor after her, she would have been captured. So it's like, what is your problem, Bail? You suck. So he's like, duly noted. And he's like, it's like, you're so ridiculous. He's like, a lot can happen in a year. Wouldn't you agree? He stayed on Coruscant too long. The rumors we've been hearing is that the ISB was onto Luthen. I'm afraid it's just as easy to believe that Luthen was the one being played. His paranoia, his secrecy, his inability to collaborate, the web of doubts that he created. It makes everything so unbelievable. And it's like, why are you having such a hard time accepting the possibility? You just immediately want to dismiss it without even looking into it. Mon's like, so we do nothing? And then Mon Calamari is like, Dodonna and Merrick will be back tomorrow night. And Andor's like, this is active intelligence. The lady senator's like, more like puffed up speculation. Bail's like, we will follow up tomorrow with a full session. As of now, Captain Andor, you are forbidden from accessing your ship and confined to quarters. And he just stares at Bail. The others are silent. Draven gets up to take Andor, and Andor looks at him quietly. He's like, requesting permission to visit the infirmary. And Mon quickly stands up before anyone can say anything. She's like, permission granted.
And Andor kind of looks at her and looks at Bale and he leaves. She glances at Bale and he like sighs and like shakes his head a little bit. But as I'm watching this, it's like this for some reason I felt like this was just really tense. And I don't know if I think what it was is as I was watching, it wasn't really like suspenseful or anything like that. But I feel like just how ridiculous, how incredulous that they're being so dismissive when all of this happened. Just and never mind, okay, if this was all like nothing, why would they send like this huge, why would they send this like tactical squad after Clea if she didn't know anything? It's like they're just idiots. It's like, how is this rebel line? How did they even survive with if these are the people in charge? So Draven walks with Andor. He's like, your contact with Saw Gerrera, and he's like, Tivik. And Draven's like, he sent 3 urgent messages from Kaveen or where is it? Kaveen? I forgot the name of the place. In the past 10 hours. And he's like, Saw's on Jeddah, and you think this can wait? And Draven's like, you're in no position to make suggestions, Captain. Make it quick. So Clea, she's looking kind of dazed in like a hospital bed. Someone's like tends to her. She got bruises, lacerations on her head. Andor goes to her as the nurse leaves. He's like, not exactly the hero's welcome I promised, was it? It's a lot for them to take in all at once. It's a lot. It's like, I'm doing what I can, I promise. But she doesn't say anything because she's just still like kind of like out of it. Mon then goes to her cousin Vel, and Vel's like, oh, I thought we were getting breakfast. What's wrong? And Mon's like, Luthen's dead. The Cassian brought Clea back, and Vel's like, when did this happen? And Mon's like, just now. And she's like, Cassian? And Mon's like, he's been grounded. And Vel's like, he should stop saving people. Then Mon's like, I need something. They brought back some curious information. I won't share it because I'm hoping he'll tell it to you and you'll tell me what you think. And Vel's like, spy on him. And Mon's like, help me believe him. So Andor finds Willman outside his place waiting, when he gets home. And he's like, I have some bad news. And Will's like, you couldn't find Luthen? And Andor's like, he's dead, Will. And Willman's like kind of shocked because, they worked a lot together. And so Andor just like kind of puts his hand on his shoulder. He's like, he made it worth it. And then he pulls Will into a hug. In the control room, a guy tells Draven that they have another message from Caffeine. Where is it? I forget what it was. He won't talk to anyone but Andor. But it's like Draven's like, call him back. But I wasn't sure if he meant call back the person or call Andor back. So, because then Vel goes to the Andors. He asks if she'll drink to Luthen. And she's like, just this once. And, so he pours a drink for them. He's like, can't toast them all, can we? So then she raises her glass. She's like, Horn, Nemec, Terramin. And he's like, Cinta. And she's like, the Gormans, the Ferex, your mother, the Danis. And then clink. And he's like, Alani. He's like, I've heard people claim that they were there when it happened. And she's like, I'd kill anyone I heard say that. He like chuckles. He's like, I believe you would. And then Val's like, Mon wants to know if your Luthen story is real. So I like how she cuts to the chase. She's not going to sugarcoat it. She wants me to find out if you're lying. So I just love her, like her honesty. And Andor's like, he died for it. Doesn't matter what he did to us along the way. Doesn't matter how it twisted him. None of this exists without him. None of us are here. He's like, Clea wouldn't lie about it. And she finishes her drink and she kind of has him pour another one. And she's like, tell me what he said. In the med bay, then Clea sits up. And we hear Nemec speaking. At first, I was like, is she hearing a flashback? But no. So there's like audio. There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. And, she pulls out like some tubes out of her arms or whatever. And the voice is like, alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. And we see Clea get up and walk out of the med bay room. The voice, like, random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. But we really see it. It's Partagaz is listening over speakers to this audio. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward.
So then someone walks in a big conference room behind Partagaz. You can't really see because it's blurry. I mean, they're out of focus, the other person. It's Legret. And then the voice is like, and then remember this, the imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks, it leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Which right there, I mean, that is just like spot on. So Partagaz turns off the audio, and then he's like, I'm assuming you've heard it before. And Legret's like, bits and pieces. So that was I forgot the guy's name, Nemec. I think he released this like manifesto, whatever audio thing. So that's what he was listening to. So he's like, and Partagaz's like, just keep spreading, doesn't it? And Legret's like, it's been hard to contain. Partagaz's like, who do you think it is? And then Legret's like, I'm afraid they're waiting for you, sir. I told them I'd bring you down. And Partagaz is like, may I have a moment to collect my thoughts? And Legret like nods and exits. So Partagaz sits, and then he puts a blaster in front of him on like the counter, on a desk, table, whatever. Legret's standing outside the hall with his back to the door. There's like 2 stormtroopers there. Then they hear like a muffled blast. The troopers like start to move, but then Legret just like puts his hand out to stop them. So now this is again going with what, like, Partagaz was completely loyal, 100% loyal. He was overseeing this thing to get Luthen or whatever, or to get Clea, and because they failed, he's going to get punished for that. And so instead of dealing with that, he decides to just kill himself. It's like, what kind of organization where, like, you know, there's no room for failure, and you know, there's nothing he could have done. Clea's like outside in the rain. It's raining on Yavin. It's night. Andor looks out his door, and Vel puts on her coat and tells him that, you know, he should reconnect with Bix. And Andor's like she's safe, isn't she? And Vel's like, that's what I hear. And Andor's like, she wouldn't be safe with me. It's too late for that. And Vel's like, she might disagree. And Andor sighs. He's like, once this settles down, maybe I'll think about it. And she's like, don't wait too long. And she leaves, which she's got a point there. So I feel like that was right there is a very important scene. Clea is like shivering in the rain. Vel sees her and calls out to her, and she's like, Clea, it's me, Vel. So she gives her a coat. She's like, not sure how much good this, you know, but, you know, puts us on. She's like, come on, you can't stay out here. So they go to Vel's place. They're sitting at a table. Clea's like wrapped up, and she must be having like a hot drink or something like that. And Vel's like, I'm sorry about Luthen. It's like, what you did for him? I can't imagine that was easy. And Clea's like, it had to be done. And then Vel's like, it gets tiring saying that, doesn't it? And Clea's like, he always used to say, know your way out before you go in. And she's like, I don't even really know where I am. And Vel's like, I have friends everywhere. She's like, you're here with friends. And then she's like, I need to find my cousin, and you need to sleep. So she like grabs her coat, and she leaves Clea there. But it's like, I hope Clea, you know, doesn't do anything, you know, against herself, like to hurt herself. Because it's like, why would she just get up out of the hospital when they're, or the med bay when they're, you know, trying to help her? Andor pours a hot drink, tea or something like that. K2SO walks in with Melshi, and K's like, we've been released. They threw us out. And Melshi's like, got tired of listening to him. And K's like, none of that is true. General Draven brought us home. And Melshi's like, he's outside. So Andor goes out to talk to him. And Draven's like, Tivik's on Kafrene until tomorrow. He'll only meet with you. So he must have talked to him, whatever. And Andor's like, that doesn't sound promising. And Draven's like, do you trust him? He's like, I try. And then he's like, so Kafrene, I wonder if he's in Rogue One. So he does, do you trust him? He's like, I try. And then Draven's like, there's an Imperial destroyer parked over Jeddah as of 2 days ago. It's like, we were warning Saw to step away before you came back. Jeddah, Kyber crystals, an ISB mole, and Luthen dying to get us in motion. Now Tivik keeps calling us. If this is all a trap, it's a brilliant way to spring it. And Andor's like, how do I get to Kafrene?
So Bale is in the meeting room. Draven and Mon walk in. Bale's like, "You have news?" Mon's like, "You need to hear us out." So then we see this little girl standing by a lake. She calls out, "Casa!" And then Andor is like woken up by K2SO. He like wakes with a gasp. So he's dreaming about his sister. So I was like, wait, what happened to his sister? Because they were like separated when they were young, and he's been trying to look for her, right? So he's woken up. K2's like, he's like, waking up humans is always confusing. So Andor sighs. He like sits up. He's like, what is it? And K's like, the man you do not like is here. And Bale's standing in the doorway. He's like, excuse us, droid. So then the Cassian, he's like, sleep well? He's like, no. And he's like, you ever sleep well? No. He's like, then we have something in common. General Draven has your orders. Proceed to your contact. Learn what you can. Do it quickly. And Andor's like, can I ask what changed? Bale's like, if I die fighting the Empire, I want it to go down swinging. And Andor like chuckles softly. He's like, you find that amusing? He's like, no, but you and Luthen would have gotten along much better than you think. And then Bale's like, may the Force be with you, Captain. And he walks out because he doesn't believe in the Force stuff. Or doesn't want to. So then Andor gets dressed. He puts out his blaster. He waters plants at his place. Melshi like marching and jogging with some others. They run past Andor. Woolman has breakfast with his girlfriend. Mon's eating with Vel, like a big like food tent or something like that. And then this part that kind of was a little confusing. We see Perrin, Mon's husband. He's like in his like their car, whatever, being driven, and he's with a woman who's passed out, like drinking. But it's actually what's his name, Skolden, Davos Skolden, who was like the one that was. He's basically, this is his Perrin, Mon's husband, is with the mother-in-law of his daughter, because yeah. And they're in the back of the vehicle. She's like passed out, like leaning on him, and he like, grabs a bottle from her hand. So it's like, wait, what is that about? More on that later. Clea walks up. Dedra, we see her sitting in her cell. Clea looks outside at the troops like walking by. So Dedra, I believe she's in a big prison where Andor was, because like the lights go out, and she's sitting on her like her bunk, and she puts her head in her hands. She's completely sad and miserable because she's just like locked up there forever. And if they're probably working, like we saw that in season 1. Andor sees that Force lady, the healer, whatever, unloading some stuff, and they kind of like lock eyes, but then he keeps walking. Saw looks out a window, and then this part was like, I was almost starting to get a little emotional because like the music like starts swelling, and because this is leading into Rogue One, and all of this means, Andor is headed towards his death. He's not going to survive much longer. So then Andor arrives at a ship. Krennic's like, he's looking out at the Death Star from like a Star Destroyer, still being constructed and everything like that. Andor enters his ship. K2SO's in the cockpit, and he's like, "There's a rumor we have a flight plan," because they're actually like on an official mission. And Andor's like, "The Ring of Kafrene," and K's like, "Tivik?" He's like, "We'll take the quick way. It is so much easier when I know what we're doing." He's like, "Get us out of here." The ship lifts off. So then we see that that like wheat planet where they stayed before, Mina or something like that. We see B2 EMO, Andor's little droid. He's there. Bix went back there. So she walks. This is a part like, oh my gosh. So she walks out in the field, and she has a baby in her arms. And the baby starts crying, and she's like, shh. She's like, it's okay. And she looks out into the horizon, and then fades to black. It's not okay. It's never going to be okay. And this is a part, as like the end credits starts playing, I started getting like emotional over this. And it was silly because, again, Andor, I I never really liked him in Rogue One. I thought he kind of had this attitude. He thought he was cool, and I thought he was kind of a dork. And he's like, "Oh, you're just tough guys." And it's like, "Wait, are you trying to be like is this supposed to be like a Han Solo character?" And it's like, "Wait, he just kills that dude." I have to, again, we'll talk about this on the Secret Podcast when I watch it again. And but the fact, he everything we've seen now. Like for so long, Andor he's made sacrifices and everything like that. So basically, Bix left because she was pregnant. Again, we're assuming this is Andor's kids. It's 99.99999% certainty it's his kid. So she left because she was pregnant and she wanted to protect her kid. And now, Cassian Andor, he's not even aware that he's a father. He has no idea that he has a kid. And Bix is like, her thinking is like, if I tell him, then he's going to give up fighting for all of us. And, it's not just about a child having a father. It is about the entire galaxy being able to survive free from oppression. And which, that's a lot of pressure in one person. But, she's like, this is more important. We need to do that. So he's never going to know. This kid is never going to know who their father is. And it's just heartbreaking. And I think it's a little different. Like if you are a parent to think about that, it's like, I couldn't imagine like never knowing my daughter. I mean, I see like what an amazing person she is. And, and even as she gets older and, obviously, she's doing more things on her own, a lot more things. And, I'm not, with her, every second of the day or almost whatever. It's still knowing, that she's out there doing great things and she's happy and, you see the good times and the bad. And it's like, he's never going to be there for that. And it's so, sad. But then the other thing is like, we don't know who the kid is. Is the kid anyone? Will we ever see the kid again? Some people are saying, well, maybe the Ryan Gosling's character is going to be, which would be, I would be okay with that, but it would be kind of silly. I mean, why not? I mean, why can't we find out? But I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. And because I mean, obviously Ryan Gosling doesn't have the right complexion for like Andor and Bix to be their kid, but who knows? So yeah, that was I was literally like in tears, like just thinking about that, and it was I don't know, it was just so weird that it hit me. Now with the stuff at first I was like, what's going on with Perrin and everything? Apparently there's like a deleted scene or something like that. So when Mon Mothma, I had to look this up. And so when Mon Mothma was giving her speech, I guess Davo Sculdun, he has like a news network, and when they're like pull her off the air or whatever, so it was his network that kept her going. So Davo had some rebellious desires or whatever, sympathies. So he kept her speech going when they were supposed to like cut it. And so the speculations that he got in trouble for that, or he got arrested, or who knows, something like that. And that was like a year ago. So basically Davo and Mon were both like rebels and they both had to leave. And then Perrin, Mon's husband, and Davo's wife were not. So did they somehow bond together? They didn't look too happy because she's passed out drunk, and he didn't look too thrilled in the back. He just takes the bottle from her, and then I think he takes a swig himself. So it's like, did the Empire arrest Davo? Are they just trying to console each other because they both lost their spouses? And don't know. But it was an interesting. Hadn't even thought about like whatever happened to Mon Mothma's husbands. We never see him again in any of like Star Wars Rebels or anything like that. There's never any mention of what happened to him. And I guess I assumed that they just like went their separate ways or whatever. I just never really thought about it. So that was interesting. And then the other thing is like we never found out what happened to Andor's sister. And I guess the showrunner, I forget who, he's like, he kind of wanted to leave it vague, because, we don't always find out everything, and that's just how it is. So we'll never know. I did come across a Reddit thread about when I was looking at, about like I was trying to figure out like what the deal was with Perrin. And then some people were talking about the kid, and they're like, someone's like, they never said the kid's name or something like that. And someone's like, the kid's name was Rey Palpatine Skywalker, which would be ridiculous. Yeah. So there you go. That was Andor. But that ending, ugh. So yeah, I am going to do my best to try to watch Rogue One. And, I may just kind of do, for next secret podcast, do a pause on Hobgoblin, talk about Rogue One. I don't know if I talked about it on a regular podcast. I'm trying to think when that came out. That might have been before. It might have been like during the Comic Find days, right? It must have been. So yeah, bravo to this show. This has been a heck of a ride, man. This is like the nitty gritty of what Star Wars is about. All right, and now Murderbot. So I haven't mentioned it, but I think I'm like a week and a half behind on this. So season 1, episode 7, complementary species, and it's always interesting. Like a lot of times on many of the shows, when I see the name of the episode, and sometimes I'm like, that's an interesting title. Like, what does that mean? And then I don't really like go back and think about it until like moments before I'm going to start recording. I'm like, complimentary. I was like, yeah, that's what that meant. So it starts off, we get like a flashback at Port Free Commerce. It's like 1 month earlier. The crew is like having a celebratory dinner out. And it's weird because at first I was like, wait, are they celebrating Baradwaj? And she says that she's about to give a lecture tomorrow, and she's never spoken in front of so large a group. And then she says something like bitter or something like that. Or what was this sweet? No, maybe it was a sweet, because she says something, and she mentions Pin Lee had tickets to their favorite theater ensemble, but canceled them to sit in the front row of her lecture. So then she says bitter and does like a swipe on her face or something like that. And she says that she took it the wrong way. And Baradwaj shared that she had romantic feelings for them, and Pin Lee did not return those feelings. So it's like, it's kind of awkward to be saying this in front of everyone. And Baradwaj apologizes to Pin Lee for the discomfort that she caused her. And Pin Lee's like, we can talk about this. And then the rest like snap applaud. So it's like, okay, well, this is weird. Then Rathy's like, okay, who's the next victim? It's like, I mean, willing participant. And then they get Rathin, and they start chanting his name, and he like tries shushing them, whatever. And he's like, all right. He's like, okay. He's like, I choose. And Baradwaj's like, you have to do the face swipe. So he's like, sweet, and does like a swipe down his face and whatever. So I guess they have to choose like bitter or sweet, whatever. Just do one or do both of them or something like that. So he's like, sweet. So I'll choose a fearless leader. He's like, so I'm at a conference of non-aligned systems as a representative of the Free Planet Working Group. In fact, I'm working for the Corporation RIM as a spy. And they all kind of look around confused. And he's like, they have induced me to be very addicted to a number of substances for which only they possess the formulas. My job is to acquire sensitive information that the Corporation RIM can use to divide their adversaries and further their reach. My target is Dr. Ada Mensah, and I am sick of it all. I'm sick of the lying, I'm sick of the addiction, and I'm seriously considering ending my life. Then I meet Mensah, and I understand what is possible between people of goodwill. So I break down, I tell her everything, but she forgives me, and here we are. And then they start snapping, and Baradwaj's like, okay, now, bitter. And Grathan's like, bitter, I can't think of anything. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at this game. And he gets up, and he like goes by the window. Mensa goes after him, and she's like, so the thing is, the bad stuff is also part of the good stuff. Sweet and bitter, positive and negative. He like nods and swipes his head. He's like, bitter? You are naive. And Mensa's like, go on. He's like, this expedition, this deal with the company, I don't like it. I don't think that it is safe. And Mensa's like, well, we have a security unit coming along. Does that make you feel better? And he's like, no, it makes me feel worse. And then Mensa's like, then why are you here? And Garathan's like, I guess I'm naive too. So yeah, it's hard to, this is an interesting exchange, finding out that he was like a spy and everything like that. But it's like, why is he there? So in the present, it's like, finish emergency preparations immediately. Departure in 10 minutes. And Pinley comes down the stairs. He's like, okay, who died and made the sec unit our boss? And Rathy points at Labibi's body covered up with a blanket. He's like, she did. And the sec unit narrate. He's like, what? It's like, I covered it. So he's standing outside. He's like, my risk assessment module was a piece of crap. It hadn't told me that Labibi was a hostile, and I was certain that her friends were on their way here. Inside, Garathan was like, what's it doing out there? And Mensa's like, it said that it was monitoring the perimeter. And Garathan's like, that's what it always says whenever it doesn't want to deal with us. And Baraj at a computer. She's like, all our files, all our data. It was everything we've been working on. And Garathan's like, there'll be more data, trust me. He's like, we have to go. And he's walking with a stick because he got shot in the leg. And she asks if he's okay, if he needs more time in the med bay. And he says that he's okay. And then he asks if she's okay. Because, Bharadwaj was like very upset that Labibi was killed. Outside, Sec Unit's display warns of an incoming hopper. He's like, time to go. Inside, Arata whispers, she's like, we know. And he's like, if you know, then why aren't you moving faster? And Arata says to the others, like, it's listening. It's always, has it always? He comes inside. He's like, they're coming. We need to leave now. So they all just stand there, which is like so annoying. He takes a step forward and they all kind of flinch. Then he narrates, humans really didn't weigh the pros and cons accurately. You would think that saving their lives would cancel out a little unexpected violence. But no, fine, whatever. Time for a softer approach. He removes his helmet. I'm asking you to please get into the hopper, unless you feel like dying. I mean from them, not from me. On the hopper, Pinley whispers, because Sekin is like standing at the back, and she whispers to Mensa, she's like, what's the plan? Is there a plan? And Mensa's like, the plan is to stay alive. And Pinley's like, for how long? And Mensa's like, well, I was hoping forever, but I would settle for about a month. That's when the company transport is due. And Pinley's like, yeah, not if they're in on it. Garathan's like, if it's not in on it. And from the other side of the hopper, he narrates, it's not like I couldn't hear them from here. Their unwarranted fear and distrust of me was starting to get a little annoying. Then Rathy goes up to him smiling. He's like, Sec. He's like, what's going on, buddy? Everyone's feeling a little bit jumpy, Kind of just a little bit startled, to be honest. I was so startled. He's like, that was some pretty good aim, Unless you were trying to hit Garathan and missed. Know what I mean? He like lightly hits him on the shoulder. And Sekin is like, if I was trying to kill Garathan, he would be dead. You would all be dead if I wanted to kill you. And Rathy's like, cool. He's like, okay, good talk. And he slowly walks back to the others. And they're like, what was all that about? He's like, yeah, I was just checking in, And Bharadwaj's like, that's good. What did it say? And Rathy's like, it's feeling good. It's feeling good. It's feeling confident. And Arata's like, do you think it has any regret for killing Labibi? And or maybe did she say regret or remorse? I think regret. And Rathy's like, don't know. It didn't use that word exactly. So the hopper lands in another area, and he's like, I'm going to set a... And Garathan's like, perimeter? He's like, sure. And then Sekin, without turning towards him, he's like, Dr. Garathan, your body temperature is spiking. And he's like, oh, thank you so much for the concern. I didn't indicate concern. I just stated a fact. And he walks outside. And he's like, ungrateful. Maybe I should stop sticking out my neck for them. Inside, Pinley's like, maybe now's our chance to take off and leave. Let the company pick it up separately. It's like, yes, it defended us, but if it changes its mind, we cannot defend ourselves against it. And Mensa's like, I'm more concerned with the people who are trying to actually kill us right now. Of course, I am not happy with how it killed her. Garathan's like, I'm also not happy with it because someone's head exploded next to mine. Bharadwaj's like, she had a name. And Rathy's like, yeah, Libi. And Bharadwaj corrects him. She's like, Labibi. And Pinley's like, in its defense, Labibi did seem happy to kill us. And Arata's like, no, I don't think she would have. I think she was bluffing. Garathan looks down at his leg or his knee, whatever. He's like, pretty solid bluff. And Bharadwaj's like, I thought it was supposed to protect us, not... And Rathy's like, not hurt anybody? It's like, come on, guys. He's like, sometimes you got to break a few eggs and make a protein-dense breakfast. And Bharadwaj's like, that's not the expression. But Rathi's like, yeah, but am I wrong? And he's like, I don't believe that we can make it without Sec Unit. And Arata's like, because we would be defenseless? And Pindley's like, babe, I'm right here. I was like, okay, Pindley, I'm sorry, what are you going to do? You haven't done like anything. And plus the fact that Labibi, who was like such a ditz, that she got the drop on them. So, and Rathi was just like, yeah, so am I. And Arata's like, okay, I really appreciate that both of you are here, but let's not forget all the things that have happened. And she kind of motions toward Bharadwaj and, you know, how she almost got eaten or whatever. It's like, and how we got out of it. I mean, I think this is the moment we need to join hands with it, not abandon it. Mensa's like, the question isn't if we leave it, but if it leaves us. She's like, think about it. If I were a construct who had been subjected to years of forced labor, violence, and abuse, I would think seriously about trying to make it on my own. Garathan's like, yeah, but first, I'd get rid of the witnesses, take them to an isolated place for starters, someplace they wouldn't be found. Pindley's like, if we get out of this, I'm suing the living poop out of everyone in the corporation rim. And Mensa's like, I would love to see that. So Sec Unit walks through the woods. He's like, I could just leave them, cope on their own, I guess, but it wasn't that easy. It's wrong to think of constructs like me as half bot, half organic, like the bot half should just want to obey orders and do its job, and the organic part should want to protect itself and get the hell out of there, as opposed to the reality, which was that I was one whole confused entity. I suppose I could just watch media until my battery ran out and I became another piece of scenery. And then he sees himself like standing next to like a tree with like branches and leaves like growing over him. And he gets like really close to it, and he's like, I should have downloaded more shows. So Garathan's like sits outside. Mensa comes up. She's like, you don't look well. I think you need a med bay. And Garathan's like, we can't risk it, at least according to our new best friend. And he's like, do you have feelings for it? And Mensa's like, for Sec Unit? He's like, yes, Sec Unit. And she's like, Gura, darling, you really are out of it. And he's like, here he comes. It. Because he actually called him he. He said, here he comes. So then Mensa's like, how's the perimeter? And he's like, is that a joke? And Mensa's like, sort of. Though I do actually want to know how the perimeter is. Secure. And then Mensa's like, and you? Am I secure? She's like, how are you in general? And SecBot narrates, I had thought that one of the good things about not hiding my hack governor module would be that I wouldn't have to answer stupid human questions, but annoyingly, she kept waiting for a response. Fortunately, BS would do the trick. Fine. Rathi comes rushing out. Arata and Pindley are trying to stop him, saying, now's not the time. Rathi's like, okay, let's have a little chat, shall we? Garathan thinks you're going to murder us. And Pindley's like, Rathi. And Rathi's like, somebody had to say it. Arata's like, no, they didn't. Rathi's like, well, it deserves to know. It is a member of our team. Pindley's like, sorry, but it's not. Not really. Are you? What's going on here? Could I see your face, please? Why don't you want us to look at you? And he's like, there's no reason to look at me. I am not a sex bot. And Garathan's like, so you don't have a governor module, but we can torture you by looking at you? And Sec Unit's like, probably right up until I remember that I have guns built into my arms. Rathi and Arata like kind of put their arms up. They're like, okay. Pindley's like, what exactly is your plan for security besides threatening us? And Sec Unit's like, I don't know. What exactly is your plan besides filing a lawsuit? Pindley's like, it can hear us in the hopper too? And he's like, I wish I didn't have to, but of course I can hear you. I'm a highly advanced piece of technology. Mensa's like, all right, we have to have it out. We are going to talk about this right now. Arata's like, yes, I agree. We can talk about this. Mensa's like, yes, we can talk about this. Could you please lower the helmet? Garathan gets up. He's like, you can talk about it. I'm going to go get some rest. Mensa's like, circle. And Sec Unit thinks he's like, nope. And she's like, you too. And then he says, absolutely not. Rathi's like, it's okay. He's like, we can talk about this. Mensa repeats, like, he's like, we can talk about this. And Sec Unit thinks, he's like, why do they keep saying that? So Mensa's like, Sec Unit, I consider myself lucky to have someone here who is used to combat. We are not. And he's like, unless you get a mining drill in your hands. So he made a joke. And she's like, I'm going to have to reckon with that. I just want them to get past the violence. It's safer if they think of you as a person who is trying to help, because that is how I think of you. And he like removes his helmet. Then he looks to the side. He's like, I hear something. And Arata's like, maybe it just needs some perimeter time. And Pinley's like, what even is a perimeter? It really seems to vary. He looks out, his display's like surface anomaly detected, target pattern match. He's like, everyone back in the hopper. Pinley's like, what is it? Rathy's like, is there something on a perimeter? And this is annoying. He's telling them what to do, and they just sit there and they question. They don't. And he's like, now. And Arata's like, can we talk about this? He's like, no, you can't, because you'll all be dead. He marches towards them, and they all turn like hustle inside. So they're scared of him. It's the only way to listen. As soon as he reaches the doorway, he turns and raises his gun arms, and a big giant like creature thing busts through like the ground. It's like all its little legs and it's all its teeth in its mouth. They cringe back, and then there's like a thud on the ceiling because they close the door. Sec unit grabs a big old blaster. He looks up, like there's like a skylight or window at the top. And the beast like slams its toothy mouth against the glass, does it again, and Pingley's like, poop, it's trying to get in. Baradwaj points to the cockpit window. She's like, there's another one. And Rathi's like, no, this one's different. So it has like tentacles, and it has like a quad mouth, like four things that like go out. It almost looks like one of those, what are they called in Stranger Things, but not quite. So Sec Unit's displays like says possible hostile, but then it like licks the glass. And it climbs up, it grabs the other one. Someone's like, they're fighting. And Sec Unit calculates the structural integrity based off their weights, like, can the ship hold them? And Barajwan's like, they're going to kill each other. And Arata's like, no, they're not fighting. I think they're complementary genders of the same species, which is the name of the title. Rathi's like, they're making love. And Mensa's like, well, this is unexpected. And Arata's like, this is fascinating. Someone, I forget who, someone's like, when Rathi said making love, they're like, that's what you call it? Or that's what you think of this? So Garathan says that he's worried about the structural integrity of the hull. He's like, is there anything we can do to get them off? And Sec Unit's like, I could electrify the hull. And Rathi's like, yes, do it. Arata's like, no. It's like, hey, these are animals. This is just animal behavior. We need to be documenting this. We can't be administrating shocks to them. And Sec Unit's like, frankly, I didn't find it any more revolting than what humans do to each other. So the doors open, they walk out, and he's like, they're gone for now. And Rathi's like, yeah, but they left something. So there's like these white bulbous things sticking on the side of the hopper. And Arata's like, oh, wow, they must have been attracted to the residual heat from our engines. And then they thought this would be a really great place to reproduce. Rathi's like, so it wasn't just a casual sex thing? Then Garathan says to Mensa, like, we should get this off the hopper. And Arata's like, no. It's like, what if it kills him? And Pinley's like, well, what if it doesn't? Then you could study them or something in private, somewhere where I don't have to look at them. Arata's like, babe, just go inside then. Mensa's like, I don't see any harm in leaving them there for the moment. And Sec Unit's like, I did, but nobody asked me. Mensa's like, perhaps they'll hatch and crawl off. And Sec Unit's like, I was standing around like an idiot when I learned that top-of-the-line Sec Units could jam my threat assessment modules. So he sees Sec Unit like flies down from somewhere, kicks the Murderbot down, and the other is like, please remain calm. And he lightly shoots at them like, and they like duck. They go inside the hopper while the two bots are fighting. So Rathi throws like a spear or something, but it catches it, throws it back at him. He's like, whoop! He like curses, but Sec Unit shoots it in the air to deflect it from hitting Rathi. So he saved him. Arata screams, and she runs up, slams against the front of the other one, and it doesn't even budge, doesn't even move. It's not affected. And Pinley grabs her away, but then Sec Unit grabs Pinley to move her, and she's like kicking at the other one. And then when he like turns to like set her down, he turns his back, then he gets shot in the back. He's like, they were trying to help, which didn't help. Barajwaz throws a stone, but it ends up hitting Sec Unit, who like is like on his knee. And then the other like turns to shoot at her, but Sec Unit grabs his arm. He gets hit and kicked to the ground. He's like, but as much as it pissed me off, I kind of appreciated it. So its hand gets stuck in the larva, and it blasts it at it because it's like all gooey and everything like that. And then he knocks Sec Unit down. He aims at him, but then the first beast blasts out of the ground. Everyone screams, and it chomps down in the other bot's head, and it tries shooting at it. Finally, the other bot's body is dropped along with its severed heads. And the creature goes to the hopper, grabs the other egg sac, and dives back into the ground. So then Sec Unit's like, in retrospect, I was glad we didn't touch the egg sacs. So because the other Sec Unit blasted at
one group of egg sacs, the creature came and chomped its head off. So everyone gets up slowly. Rathi was like, woo! He's like, yeah, Sec Unit does it again. Sec Unit's like, Rathi wanted to grab me for some kind of celebration. He's like, come on, bring it in. He like wants to hug him. He's like, fortunately, fate intervened. So Garathan, he like faints. He like just falls over, and they go to him. Someone's like, he's burning up, which is what Sec Unit said. He mentioned his temperature. They're like, he needs a med bay. He's like, we have to get back to the habitat. And Sec Unit's like, the habitat will be crawling with hostiles. And Mensa's like, he'll die. And Sec Unit's like, you will all die if you go back. And Mensa's like, no. It's like, this is how we do it. And Barrage was like, we take care of each other. So then Sec Unit's like, oh, great. So now I'm the bad guy. So Mensa's like, we're going. You can come if you want. And he like stands there. He looks down at the severed Sec Unit head. And that's where episode 7 ends. So it's crazy. So we're at this point. We still don't know like what the heck is going on. Like why are they trying? Who is trying to kill them? I mean, it's no idea. And because it is weird. He's like remain calm, and he's like then he shoots at them. And the fact that they're jamming his signal. So is it the company that's after? Why? So if anything, while I'm enjoying the show for like it's comedy or whatever and stuff, I'm curious about what the heck is going on. It's like why? Yeah. So that is episode 7. All right, Ironheart. I think so. So now I'm at the position again. I think I'm only going to cover the 3rd episode, but this past week, because they dropped episodes 1, 2, and 3 the first week, and then they dropped 4, 5, and 6 the second week. They dropped all 6 episodes in 2 weeks. It appears that the Rotten Tomatoes scores have gone up because people were just like unfairly review bombing it before they even, I talked about that last week. I'm not going to go into that again, but it looks like more people are enjoying it. It's hard to say because I saw like a little clip with the guy playing the Hood, Anthony Ramos, I think is his name, and he was saying how they kind of expected this, because they're doing things a little different. It's not like your typical Marvel show. So of course, people, they know that they're gonna get some unfortunate, racist comments or attacks or stuff like that. But the difficult thing, it's hard to say. I'm sure a lot of it is people being racist. It's like, oh, we have a black lead character. We had, Anthony Ramos. You got a Hispanic guy. We have, and we have all these other, eclectic, whatever you want to call them. Just different people. This is what reality looks like. This is an accurate depiction of a group of people that, you have people from all walks of life, and you don't normally see that in Marvel movies or in movies in general. And you have, I don't know if they're sheltered people where, you don't see people who are different, whether they're gay or, LGBTQ or the transgender or anything like that. So for a lot of people, it's hard to accept that something is different. And, maybe there's even people who don't experience a lot of people of other races. And, maybe they don't know any black people or any Hispanic people or any, Latino, whatever, or just anything. And they're just in their own little, I don't want to say like bubble. So there's, people, it's gone back forever. People always, not that they're afraid, but I sometimes think that they are afraid of what they don't know. And for the longest time, when we didn't see as many gay or homosexual or whatever in media, it always seemed like there's people that are like afraid of that. And I don't understand how some people can be like so extremely homophobic. It's like, are you afraid that someone with different preferences, that somehow they're going to convince you that they're going to change you into like if you're a dude, a heterosexual male, and it's like, are you afraid that if you see someone who is gay, whether it's a woman or guy, that all of a sudden you're going to be like, hey, maybe I like guys too. I didn't think I did. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then when, there's a whole thing is like, oh, they're going to brainwash our youth. It's like, it doesn't work that way.
And it's one thing to be accepting, but you don't even have to be accepting of it. If you don't agree with a certain lifestyle, it doesn't mean that you have to. It's like, why do you have to instill your beliefs on other things? Like, like let's say I like Marvel and I hate DC. I'm not going to go around and tell people don't read DC or have anything to do with DC. Or if I like Star Trek, or if I like Star Wars more than Star Trek, which I do, I'm not going to tell people like, oh, you can't watch Star Trek. You can't do that. It's only Star Wars. It's like, no, everyone is entitled to their own beliefs and whatever. And, if you're a guy and you like guys, if you're a girl, you like girls, or if you're a person and you like both, it doesn't matter if you agree or not. That is their business. And it seems silly. So I don't know if there's that aspect of this, or if it's the black, Riri is black. Oh my goodness. Oh no. Or the hood is Latino. Oh no. It's really sad that we had all these negative reviews. And, I said I wasn't going to get into it this week. We had all these reviews before the episodes even aired. So I don't understand that. But going back to what Anthony Ramos was saying, there's probably part of it, a huge part of it is that. But the other thing is the show is a little clunky. Some of the dialogue just doesn't work. And it feels, there are some parts where it's I don't necessarily want to say cringy. It's some stuff's like borderline cringy, but not that extreme maybe. So I think people that don't like the show, one, they're racist or whatever, homophobic or whatever. I don't know what everything, or it's just because it's not the best written production or whatever. But I'm enjoying it, and I don't understand. It's like you give me a Marvel show, even if it's not like my all-time favorite character or whatever. It's like this is a comic book show. Whereas a decade ago, we didn't have all this stuff. And so it's like we shouldn't be embracing it. And I don't understand why people are so negative. And I'm so tired of people saying, oh, Marvel sucks since Endgame. Then just stop watching. Why are you subjecting yourself? Why are you torturing yourself when, if it's so bad, if you're not going to like, if they have lost it, they lost that loving feeling, why do you keep going back? And I saw somewhere, it might have been on Reddit, it disgusted me. Someone's like, oh, I'm going to watch it on something else so I don't give Disney Plus the view. So I don't know if that meant they had a subscription. Probably not. Because, there's some people that they feel they have the right to pirate things, which is, again, atrocious. The fact that you expect to get everything for free. I pay for so many friggin' streaming platforms because I want good content. And while not all the content is great, some of it's like really hit or miss, I am not going to pirate something because I want Marvel, I want Disney, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. I want them to keep making, quality entertainment. And not everything is, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of this. Don't pirate stuff. Support it or don't support it. But if you are not going to support it, why are you watching it and complaining about it? Episode 3, We're in Danger, Riri. Or no, we're in Danger, Girl is the name of the episode. So the thugs, as I call them, the crew, they're celebrating, and they're like, this is kind of silly. They're like shooting money in the air. They got like one of those money gun things, make it rain, whatever. So there's just shooting bills in the air. It's just like kind of coming down. And even Slug's like, you're so childish. And then one of the siblings, because they're the twins, whatever, it's just like tells Slug to shut up. And it's like, you would totally strut in a money shower. And Slug's like, once you strut in a money shower, you strut in them all. The other sibling's like, well, what are you going to do with your share? And Slug's like, I'm going to go home and open up a Michelin star restaurant lounge. And I think Roz, one of the siblings, is like, that's something Stuart would say. And Roz's like, I miss that dude. And Riri's like, don't you mean Rampage? And Slug's like, still no. because I refuse to call him Rampage, even though that's like, because Riri, so she knew his name like on a Discord or something like that, some like tech Discord or whatever. Then Clown's like, she says she's about to open up a school for kids as a money laundering front for my black market explosives. It's like, okay, that's cool. Riri asks the siblings, and they both say together, they're like, underground fight club. And then Roz asks Riri, what about her? And she's like, all my money goes back into the suit, like denser alloys, precision fittings, and I almost have enough money so I can quit this shady poop. And then Jerry, the other siblings, like, says that they would take the shady poop all the way to the bank or something like that. And then there's like some hooting and stuff like that. Woo! And Clown is at the top of the stairs. There's like this like stairways that goes to the I think it's Hood's office or something like that. She's out on like the little landing wearing Hood's cloak, and the others like are shocked. And Clown's like, who wore it better, Parker or Clown? And Slug's jaw dropped, looks at Roz, who says like, have you lost your mind? And Clown's like, been trying to pick the vault where he keeps it for a long time. Cracked the code today. And Roz maybe's like, I don't know if it was Roz, like, Hood is going to kill you. And she struts down the stairs, and she's like, oh, I'm modeling the runway, Miami, Milan, whatever, all these places. And then she takes off. She's like, yo, what the? She's like, this thing is weird. And Rear's like, weird how? And Clown's like, it's hot, but, and she scoffs, like, not in a sexy way, in like a edging on theoretical physics kind of way. And Rear's like, do we have time to analyze the energy, get to the bottom of Hood's powers? And Clown's like, yo, between me and you, we can figure out invisibility, bending bullets. And then Clown, blam, slam down forward. It's like, the hell? It's John, and he yells like, don't touch the damn Hood. It's like, and y'all sitting here watching? And they're all like, oh, all right. And Ruri spins on John. She's like, yo, what is your problem? And John's like, my problem? And she's just like, she's shorter, Ruri's not that tall. And she just keeps her, stands up to him. She keeps her eyes locked as he's looking down on her. Then he scoffs. He's like, I want you to go ahead and back away, little girl. And she's like, or what? And the others are like sitting there like captivated. Then Parker comes in. Easy, John, easy. He's like, we all want the same thing, yeah? He's like, I think you made your point. They won't do it again. He's like, let's look ahead to the next hit. Slug, give us a rundown. And Slug pulls up like Heirloom Biotechnology's website on the laptop. And so Slug's like, next target's Heirloom. And Heirloom's CEO, Hunter Mason, and reads from the website, a homegrown Chicago player who became an industry titan by applying cutting-edge farming technology to specifically preserve antique seeds. Old meets new on steroids. And Roz says, they're driving local farmers out of business. And Slug's like, we're still running recon, but what we do know is the entire facility is outfitted with security design to detect any metals that could be considered a threat to the biology. And looking at John, which means no knives. And Ruri's like, no suits and no bombs, detect that Clown. And she's like, any questions? And Hood's like, I have one. Why is such a bunch of good-looking people look so pitiful? And Clown's like, probably because your boy slammed my head into a table and still hasn't apologized yet. But it's like, why should he? It's like the fact that she broke into his vault, and they all kind of look at him, and he's like, I'm sorry. And Hood's like, look, we just got paid. Everybody go out, have fun, spend frivolously. And then when we come back with cooler heads, we'll bring the heat to another rich a-hole. So they get up and leave. And Ruri asks Hoods if they can talk for a second. And she's like, about these heists. They go into his office or something like that. She's like, are we Ocean's 11 or The Sopranos? And Parker's like, what's the difference? Ruri's like, I'm only doing this because I have to, not because I'm a bad person. He's like, you're joking, right? Everyone you're talking about is a criminal, including you. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm an engineer. What I'm building is, he's like, important. And she's like, iconic. And Parker's like, look, anyone who's ever accomplished anything iconic in life has had to do some questionable things to get it done. Before my Hood, I was a nobody. But with it, maybe a little unsavory, but, I'm unstoppable. And Ruri's like, how does that actually work? It's like, I've seen something like that before. Vibranium, Pimtech. And he whispers, magic. And Ruri's like, magic is code for, I don't know. And he's like, I don't care how it works. It helps me protect who I love and what I want. And that's enough for me. And he's like, I suspect that's enough for you too, Riri. And if that makes you bad, who cares? But you're a genius, right? And I may be full of poop. So why don't you take your hard-earned cash and and do good or whatever. So at her place, she gives Xavier some brand new, I'm assuming expensive headphones. It's like, so he can retire his tired ass ones. And he just like looks at it. He's like, And Riri's like, you don't like them? He's like, no, they're great. And he's like, so they step outside like on a patio, and she like joins him. He's like, so you were dumpster diving a few weeks ago. Now you're buying expensive headphones? And she's like, that was before this job. And he's like, right, that secret startup that you super conveniently can't discuss. And Riri's like, look, if you don't want them, that's all you had to say. Xavier's like, I'm not saying that. He's like, they're special. They're from you. He's like, these are Natalie. Every scratch and scuff on these worn out earmuffs, Natalie put there. She was always borrowing them and just disrespectful. And so I don't know. Am I missing? Was Xavier and Natalie, were they siblings? I don't know if that's the case, or if they were just all friends that lived in the neighborhood. So Riri's like, that's nice, but how can you work without falling apart? And Xavier's like, every single dent is a memory I can hold on to. I swear, when I put these on, I feel her soul in here. She seeps into the music, makes it better. Then he's like, so come on, girl. It's like, what you out here doing? And she's like, nothing. He's like, you sure you're not hiding something? And she is. And then Joe, he knocks on Riri's door, and her mom answers, and she's confused. And it's like, this is an annoying thing. It's like, why is she confused? Because he's a white boy, right? He's smiling. He's like, good evening, ma'am. Is this the home of Riri Williams? And standing in the door with Joe right there in the hallway, Ronnie's like, daughter, why is there a sweaty, middle-aged white man at my door? So it just seems so incredibly rude, one, to just refer to him as a white man. Like, if it was reversed and says, why is there a black man at my door? That would be considered racist. And then to call him like a sweaty white man, middle-aged, and he's like, I'm 36, respectfully. So Xavier just like walks past him. He's like, And Riri's like, Joe. And then Ronnie's like, how do you two know each other? And it's like, what? She can't know a white dude? And Joe's like, well, Riri and I, and then she's like, met at work. And he's like, uh-huh. And Riri's like, we're coworkers. And Joe's like, yeah, we work in the same cohort, pod, team, group. And Ronnie's like, I thought your work was confidential. Should you really be walking around with blueprints? He's got like a bunch of rolled up blueprints. And Riri's like, my thoughts exactly. How about we take this outside? And as they go out in the hall, and Ronnie's like, closing the door. He's like, lovely homes, Miss Williams. And she closes the door. And he's like, do I really look middle-aged? And Riri's like, it's a khakis, which I don't, whatever. And she's like, how did you find where I live? He's like, Google. It's like, she found out where he lives, and she's questioning that. And she's like, and why are you here? He's like, right. So I couldn't stop thinking about what it felt like to hold those tools in my hands. And since then, I've had so many ideas. 3D printed corneas, a second iron stomach to make food poisoning a thing of the past, nanotech muscle fibers to increase strength and invulnerability, a biomesh material for skin, laser enhanced fingernails that never break or crack. And she's like, listen, hey, Joe, I get that you're having a whole moment, but today's not really a good day for me. So rain check? He's kind of taken aback, and he like looks at her, and he's like, no. And she's like, excuse me? He's like, I said no. He's like, you're going to help me as much as I need, or I'm going to tell your mom how we really know each other. And he has like a big smile on his face, and she just like glares at him. Give me the blueprints. He's like, so take a gander at these, and I'll see you at my place tomorrow. Is 6 o'clock good? I'm sorry, what am I saying? 6 o'clock is good. And he holds out a fist. She reluctantly like raises hers, and like he bumps it. He's like, see you then. And he's like, as he's walking downstairs, he's like, thanks for teaching me to stand up for myself. So she goes in a room. There's like a Wi-Fi frog speaker thing or something like that. And so I don't know if Riri's or if Natalie's supposed to be in there. She's like, yeah, I know I'm a criminal, so let's optimize. Natalie, run diagnostics, prep the suit for upgrade. And then the suit actually comes out of the closet, and she's like, boo. And she like scares Riri. She's like, I'm not upgrading poop till you pay me some attention. And Riri's like, what are you doing, Nat? She's like, get out. I got to optimize the suit before. And she's like, before what? Before Parker's next job? And then she's like, you know nothing about this man. And Riri's like, don't clap at me. It was just as funny if you saw it. So Nata's like, dude probably has you heisting parts for the next Death Star. And Riri's like, keep your voice down. And Natalie's like, and you don't care because you're only seeing the money. You're going to get caught being a high-tech criminal asset to a halfway crook. And she's like, Nat. And Natalie's like, you understand that, right? And she's like, what do I got to do to get you to stop talking? And Natalie's like, oh, I don't know, Ree. I have no idea. Oh, ding. How about you try and treat me like a friend and a partner instead of a high-tech genie? And Ree's like, and how am I supposed to do that? She's like, let's go somewhere. Hang like we used to. And Ree's like, what? We didn't used to do anything. Your code, that is not an efficient use of my time. And it looks like it's hurting Natalie's feelings. And she's like, you know what else is an efficient use of your time? Or isn't? She's like, trying to figure out how to undo my suit override. Sound like you've got a rock and a hard place situation. So she's basically saying that if she doesn't do anything, she's not going to be able to get into the suit because Natalie's going to lock it down. So Rear's like, this is such bull. Like, how did I get blackmailed twice in 5 minutes? And Natalie makes the suit like sit in a chair and shrugs, and she's like, karma. So Rear's like, fine. She's like, just shut up about it. We'll go first thing in the morning. And she's like, yes, Bonnie and Clyde back in the streets. Go, best friend, go back. And just starts like singing or whatever. And it's very loud. And Rear's like, now, will you just upgrade the suit? And she's like, I've got you. Next day, Natalie can appear through Rear's necklace. I guess they somehow tethered it to her or something like that. And she's like, snap. Hey, I got a window seat. And Rear's like, now you can project without needing my suit. Now you want to tell me where we're going? So we see some of the different shots of the city, and then whatever, they're sitting by a lake. Joe texts if she wants to come over a little early, like now. And she tells Nat that, she's created a monster. He got some pretty dope concepts in that pile of madness. His execution's all over the place. And Nat's like, look at you being a proud mama. And she's like, I'm just saying he's cool, neurotic and annoying, but cool. He's kind of like you. And Nat is like, ain't no way you disrespect me like that. And Nat starts talking about like some memories of Gary catching her and a boy canoodling in the garage. And so Riri says like, yeah, you, but then she's like, oh, Natalie really, did this or something like that. And Natalie's like, she has all these memories, but there's gaps. She's like, there'd be gaps too if she was alive. Then Riri says, she wonders what Gary would think of the suit, seeing her flying. And Nat says, especially if he saw her, what she was doing with it. And Riri's like, not this again. You're just going to lecture her. Nat is like, she's like, you're being a whole ass criminal. Riri says that, she's like, I told you. She's like, I got it under control. And Nat's like, for now. Then Nat says that she has one last place that she wants to go to. So they go to Gary's auto repair. They go to the garage. And Nat's like, I haven't been here since, maybe it'll help give you some perspective. So Riri says that, it's just 2 more jobs and she's done. And Nat asks, do you really think Parker will let you go? And Riri's like, he's not Al Capone. So Riri opens the lock. They open the garage door. She's like, whoa, look at this. She's like, does it still smell the same? And Riri's kind of frozen. She's like thinking back to that night, and she sees like Nat sitting on a stool before like she got shot, and she like relives the whole thing. And Natalie goes up to her. She's like, I think you're having a panic attack. She's like, it's okay. All I have to do is breathe. It's like, breathe in, out, and it calms her down. And Riri's like, how do you know how to do that? And Natalie's like, do what? And Riri's like, my Nat was the only one who knew how to calm me down when I spiraled. And Nat's like, and then Riri's like, thank you. And Nat's like, anytime. So it is kind of weird. I still don't understand, and I don't know if we'll find out in this episode or in this show since I haven't watched it all, but it's like, how did she create, how did, something like that, something that only Nat knew. How did the AI create all this stuff from, is it all from Riri's memories? Because it was scanning Riri's brain. Did it pull out like every single piece of Natalie memory and idea? So would it not know something that Nat felt? But see, it doesn't seem like that. I don't know. So then at her place, she's going upstairs, and Mom can be heard saying, she's just got home from college. Can you tell me what this is about? Riri sees 2 officers outside the apartment. They're like, Ms. Williams, we'd like to ask you about your relationship to Stuart Clark. And the officer holds up a picture of him on her phone. And she's like, expert computer tech, street name Rampage, if that helps. And Riri's like, Rampage? Did he say he knew me? The other officer's like, he was found dead this morning. We're investigating it as a potential homicide. And Ronnie's like, you think Riri had something to do with this? The officer's like, our phone logs indicate that she is the last person to have called him. Riri's like, I met Stewart on a job interview. We exchanged numbers. I tried reaching out once, but he never answered. So then the first officer's like, well, if anything else comes to mind, we'd appreciate a call. So inside, Mom's like, Riri, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm good. She goes to her room. And inside, she's like freaking. She's like, Stewart got murked. Yo, they could have murked me. I knew something was off. Poop. And she's like pacing and whimpering. Nat calmly is like, that she hasn't exactly been Team Parker, but they don't know that. And Riri says that they know everything about her, about her mom. And, she says that she needs to get ahead of this, ahead of him. It's like, she needs that hood. And that's like, no. It's like, are you crazy? This magical dude can bend bullets to his will. If he can do that, what else can he do? And Riri's like, first, he's not magic. He's just a regular dude in a magical outfit. He said so himself. He's nothing without that hood. And that's like, And Riri's like, second, that's exactly why we need to get that hood, so we know what we're up against. And that's like, and how exactly do we analyze it without ending up like Rampage? Then her phone starts buzzing, and Parker texts, like, meet at Heirloom tonight. Download and route. But it's like, what about Joe? Isn't she supposed to see Joe at 6? And Riri's like, the heirloom heist. Parker will be so distracted with Hunter Mason, he won't even notice if I take a little piece of his hood. And that's like, And Riri's like, just got to figure out how to get it. And that's like, yeah, I could figure that out. We still have the heirloom design plan. And that's like, yeah, I could figure that out. We still have the heirloom design plan. And Riri's like, nah, Slug said heirloom security is tight. I can't even bring my suit inside, but without it, I'm completely naked. And she's like, Joe. And that's like, okay, I'm not even going to get into how awkward that transition was. And she's like, what? He's like, ew, nah. Joe has a prototype for a biomesh skin material. It can cover bionic enhancement. Might need a bit of tinkering, but I think it could just be what I needed. And that's like, yeah, how convenient. And she's like, yeah, Joe's prototype is about to get a Riri Williams upgrade. And she kind of like Nat kind of like chuckles over that. Meanwhile, Parker is like doing yoga or something. John comes in, he complains about how hot it is in her. He says, it's like, for some reason it's hot in October and you got the heat on here, whatever. Parker is listening to the news about the recent crime waves, and John makes some comment about that too. But then he's like, John says that they should cancel this heirloom gig. He says, he can't find anything on Hunter Mason. There's no vices, no weaknesses, no social media. He's like, that's weird. It's like, we have no, idea what we're walking into. So he should just cancel. And Parker says that they run that risk with every hit. John's like, yeah, but this is different. And Parker's like, well, they'll find a crack. We always do. And if they can't find a pressure point, they'll just have Riri hit him with the 1-2, punch a hole in the building and make one. And John's like, do you think this is funny? He's like, we need your head in the game. And Parker's like, says the guy who's trying to derail a mission because he's scared of a glorified gardener. And John's like, we got no leverage, man. He's like, Riri's suit ain't a catch-all. It's making you too confident. You think the crew would just be down to go into this half-ass just because you're blinded by your personal vendetta? And Parker's like, well, maybe you're right. But then the news gives a quote from the CEO of Artworks. It says, these are simply petty thieves trying to make a buck using cheap tricks. They will be caught and brought to justice swiftly. And then Parker's like, no, we hit the target as planned. And John's like, okay. He's like, that's how it is, huh? No discussion. It's like, man, we used to do this together. Maybe you just don't need my help no more. And Parker's like, it's just that I see the bigger picture, John. You got to trust me. And he's like, I do trust you, but you say we hit heirloom, I got your back. So then Riri, she rings Joe's doorbell. She apologizes for being late. He's excited to see her, like pulls her inside. His place is kind of a mess. Like in the dining room, there's like stuff all over the place. And she's like, what happened here? And he was trying to create a neural link between himself and a computer chip to test potential for prosthetic. And she's like, dude, what did you do? And this is, I don't get this part. His forearm, huge cut, like gash in there. Like he like stuck something in his arm. But there's like no blood or anything. He's like, I thought the install would be simple enough. He's like, I must have shorted something. He's like, would you mind helping? And she's like, I need some tweezers, alcohol. And she's like, she's like looking. She's like, you happen to have any of that biomesh skin you designed? He's like, there's some on the counter. And she's like, so I was checking your schematics. I got some ideas for that biomesh. We could upgrade it with some enhanced silicone gridding for cloaking, cloaking from X-rays, metal detectors. And Joe's like, couldn't that be used to violate all kinds of concealed weapon laws? And she's like, yes, narc. It's like, it'd take me 10 minutes tops. So like, you already have all the parts I'd need. Thing is, I just need to borrow it. He's like, I knew it. He's like, no, 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 no. And she's like, just to test it. She's like, I'll be careful. He's like, this is all black market tech that I've heavily modified and could be traced back to me. He's like, you can't use it to make something even more illegal. She's like, but Joe, we can make something legit. It's like, think about the possibilities. Then, she goes to look for some peroxide in the kitchen of all places, and she pulls out a baggie. She's like, what is this, wheat flour? And Joe's like, please put Dad back. And then she drops it on the floor, and some spills out. She's like, what the hell, Joe? She's like, why is he in a baggie? And he's like, we weren't close. And he's like, now he's everywhere. Great. And he actually uses a dust buster and like empties it back in the baggie. And then Riri notices a name written on the bag. And this is a thing that I mentioned that got spoiled when I looked on IMDb, and it was so annoying that, yeah. So she's like, Obadiah? It's like a rich techie whose dad's name was Obadiah? Or Obadiah S? And Joe's like, Obadiah is a common name. She's like, it absolutely is not anywhere. It's like, who are you really, Joe? And he's like, I'm Ezekiel Stain. And she's like, as in Obadiah Stane, COO of Stark Industries, BFF to Howard Stark, mentor to Tony Stark, died in that horrible plane crash, that Stane? And, she was like looking up on her phone, and, she's holding up a picture of Obadiah Stane. And he like pushes her phone down. He's like, that plane story is a lie. And he like sighs. He's like, the truth is, Dad died trying to kill Tony Stark. He's like, and I've spent my whole life trying to be nothing like him. He went full supervillain in a suit a lot like yours. Then you come knocking on my door with the same iron energy. It's a non-starter, Riri. It's like, I cannot be party to whatever you're up to. So she follows him back into the dining room. She's like, I didn't know. She's like, sorry I asked. And she motions for arms. She goes back to like, tending to it, putting peroxide or whatever, rubbing some stuff on the gash. He's like, you're good at this. He's like, you could have been a doctor, anything really. He's like, why the iron suit? And Riri's like, because I could. He's like, you said that before. He's like, why'd you really build it? He's like, were you a fan? She pauses and she's like, the real fan was Gary, my stepdad. So, okay, clarification. That's what I thought. It was her stepdad. And she chuckles. She's like, he used to talk about Stark all the time. He was a mechanic, but he had an aviator's brain. He used to say that the best way to know a thing is to take it apart, put it back together, then you can see what it's really made of. And like, he fixed broken things all the time because he could. So a broken car, a broken home with a broken-hearted widow, even broken me. It's like, that's the kind of hero he was. And Joe's like, was? And Riri's like, drive by. And Joe's like, I'm sorry. It's like, at least you had a good example. All I had was an ironmonger. It's like, you're lucky to have had a Gary. Riri's like, nobody asked, but I'd say you're not your dad unless you choose to be. You're your own you. And that guy's pretty powerful on his own. And then his arm's like all wrapped up, and she's like, done. But it's like, wait, no stitches or anything? I don't understand what happened with his arm. And he's like, we're friends, right? And he like walks out, comes back with the stuff she wanted. He's like, implement your upgrades, but promise me this won't blow back on me. And she's like, I swear. And Joe's like, you should take Gary's advice. Break yourself down, see what you're made of. Might be a hero in there after all. And then, she wraps the synthetic skin around her forearm. She's like, you got this in a Cocoa Sunrise? Because it doesn't really match her skin. So Riri flies into this big warehouse later. The others are there. Slug's like, all right, last metal check before we head to Heirloom. The sensors in these greenhouses are no joke. So they start like taking his stuff out, throwing it in his bag. Roz takes off some jewelry. John has the knife. Clown puts like some metal in the bags with other stuff. And she's like, because it's probably just like some explosive stuff. And Slug's like, if we're going to have a shot at holding Heirloom hostage, everyone needs to stick to their jobs. Got it? So Riri pulls down her shirt sleeve because she's covering up the bio mesh on her arm. So later, as Riri's flying the suit, Nat asks her, like, are you sure that bio mesh in White Boy Nude is going to make it past Heirloom's metal detectors? And Riri's like, I'm not, but it's the only piece of tech I have to cloak my laser cutters. So, like, let's get that hood piece, get our leverage, and get the hell out of Dodge. Then Slug calls and asks Riri's like, okay, what do you see? Because, she's flying above. Riri's like, I see 5 greenhouses surrounding central atrium. Security seems light out here. Because there's like a couple, like, there's like some security guards like throughout. And then Slug's like, my turn. Like, cameras down in 3, 2, 1. And then Riri's like, you're clear. So a boat approaches with the others. Hood's like, good job. He's like, head to the watchtower. So Riri goes up to this post. The lights go out. And the siblings get off. They start taking out guards inside. In a greenhouse, Jerry says that she and Slug are in position. Clown says that she and Roz are set. John tells Riri to stay by the watchtower, and he's coming to her. But Riri, turns out, isn't in a suit. Nat is driving, is in control of the suit. Riri's out, and she like jumps into the water. And I guess it's not too cold for October, because I'm assuming this is Lake Michigan. And I guess she can hold her breath for a long time. It's like, holy cow, because she goes down. She finds this big like gate, like vent tube thing or whatever. So she uses a laser cutter to cut off the padlock. And Nat says that Hunter's offer is like right in the center of the structure. So she goes there underwater, and she gets this ladder so she's able to catch her breath or whatever. Climbs up, and Nat says that the chances are that she's going to enter directly underneath Hunter and Parker, so be careful. John arrives at the watchtower. He's like, yo, Ironhead, focus. And Nat's like, Riri, let me punch this dude right in the throat. And Riri's like, Nat, don't do anything. So John says that he and Riri are set. So he thinks that she's there. Hunter is like spritzing some plants. He hears some breathing. And he's like, I know you're there. So Hood appears behind him. He was invisible. And Hood's like, apologies. He's like, I let myself in. And then Hunter, the dude, he's like, there have been whispers about a flamboyant young upstart pruning the competition. And like while they're talking, you see like a manhole cover kind of like open, and Riri like pops up like in the middle of a bunch of plants. So Hunter's like, I was wondering when you'd pay me a visit. And Hood's like, you're writing a check? He's like, well, that's what this is all about, isn't it? Money? So Riri looks at a foreign object detector because it's saying like, is there any metal or whatever? So it's about to set off an alarm, but then she pulls a mesh down over the laser cutter. And she whispers to Nat that it worked. She's in. Hunter's like, there should be more than enough money to keep you and your friends happy. And Hood's like, nope, this isn't about the money. And Hunter's like, come on, man, of course it is. He's like, I can see through this little act. And they're up on like this platform, over all these like plants. And Riri's like right below them. So the guy says he can see right through his act, and Hood's like, you can? Well, why don't you tell me about myself? So Riri starts cutting like a piece of the hood, and like no one's seeing this. So Hunter's like, yeah, losers like you get off on taking somebody else's hard-earned cash, especially somebody's like me. And Hood's like, interesting read, but I don't think you have a clear grasp on the situation. Hunter's like, take what I'm offering and run. You can tell all your homies that you stole from me. So she starts like walking around under them because I think Hood moved a bit, so she like couldn't like finish the cut. So she's trying to figure out, what is she going to do? And Hood's like, whatever amount you wrote on that check is a sneeze compared to what we'll take here. So then Parker hands Hunter like a paper, and he's like, are you joking with this piece of paper? So Hood's like, sign the contract. And Hunter's like, no. And Hood's like, suit yourself. And he talks in his comms. He's like, do it, Slug. So tap, tap. She just had a keyboard, whatever. And she's like, fire detectors are now disabled. And then he's like, clown, light it up. So she's pouring some liquid on the floor in the greenhouse house. She's like not too concerned if anybody's like splashing on her boots or whatever. She's just like, got a big container, glug, glug, glug. Strikes a match. Whoosh. Parker says, we're going to burn your greenhouses one by one. You're actually willing to risk destroying everything you worked for? And Hunter's, well, I'm not risking anything. You are. So Riri, she's trying to get in position again to cut. So Hunter's like, you think you can just waltz in here and take this? Take my company that I built from nothing? And Parker, the Hood, he's like, you don't know anything about starting from nothing. Me and my homies, we do, Hunter. Signed a contract. So Riri's cutting, and Nat warns her about the meter, because it's like starting to rise. It's detecting, whatever. And Riri's like, I know, but it's like, how big of a piece does she want? She's like just totally slicing. And then it's like, wait, did the alarm go off? Because then it cuts the clown standing in front of a wall of flames. And she's like, can you feel it? And she's like so close to the fire. Roz is like laughing. Then an automated voice is like, door sealed in 3, 2, 1. And then the lights go out. So the lights go out. There's like red security lights going over like by Hunter and Hood. Roz asks Slug, like, what was that? And voice tells Slug and Jerry that they are in violation of heirloom security clearance. Slug's like, guys, the bio alert system's been triggered. And Jerry's like, shut it down. John is like trying to get someone to tell, like, what's going on out there? Because him and Nat in the suit, they just see security gates like starting to shut down like outside. Slug and Jerry just like, evacuate immediately or be subject to suffocation. So the CO2 levels are starting to rise now. Clown is still like reveling in the flames around her, and then the flames get put out. So Hunter is just sitting, like, kind of pleased with himself, and Hood's like, what the hell did you just do? And Hunter's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, one of the geniuses in your crew triggered out the sensors, and now they're all trapped. Nat's like, I don't want to panic, but they are losing their poop over in the greenhouses. It's time for you to get out of there. Hunter's like, they're as good as dead. You have no power here. Now take your pennies and get out of my sight. And he like, I think he actually like flicks pennies at him. And Hood slowly starts like looking up at him, and then voices start whispering around him. And then Hunter's like, I said, get out of my sight. So Riri's back to cutting, and Hunter grabs a little pistol off his desk, and then Hood looks at him. He's like, okay. Riri's cutting, and then it's like, is she using a laser cutter butter knife? Because it is like, why is it taking so long? She's almost has a piece cut, but then Hood disappears. He turns invisible. So I guess the cut didn't complete. And Hunter like looks around. He's got the gun raised. He like shoots, but then he drops his gun, and Hood grabs him by the throat. And I don't know if he might have lifted him a little bit. And it almost looks like he's like, did he snap his neck? Because he falls. And Riri like looks up at the thud. So I think he just, because at first I thought, did he slash his throat? But then it's like, no, he's so holding it. So then I think he just snapped it. And then Hood reappears standing over Hunter, and he's got like a cut on his cheek. So I'm not sure where that came from. And Riri's like kind of freaking because, and she's upset. She's not sure what to do. And then she sees the cut piece of Hood. So I guess she did cut it and it fell. So Parker grabs a contract. Slug calls out and says the greenhouses are attacking. John, he calms. He's like, cut bait and run. Ron tells Clown, like, blast the doors open. And she's like, I can't. It's like they're pumping in carbon dioxide. Roz takes like this big box, tries smashing the glass in the doors with the box, but it's like not even making a scratch. Meanwhile, Jerry's like punching the glass. It's like, give me a break. Are you serious? Like, it's not doing anything. John asks Parker, like, did you get the signature? And there's like no response. And then John thinks he tells Riri, he's like, get to the greenhouses, but it's not Riri. She's like, I'm going to go for Parker. So Nat takes off in a suit. Security's arrived at Hunter's section. There's a whole bunch of guards with their guns out. Hood's there. He's invisible. He grabs a guy like he's going to snap his neck, but then he just like flings him. I was like, is he going to break this guy's neck too? He turns invisible, grabs a guy's belt or something, like tightens it, flings him like across the area, smashes into a table. Riri like sneaks and opens a panel instead of going the way she came, and she crawls through an air duct apparently. And she tells Nat that she got it. But then the air duct, there's like a door behind her, it like shuts, and another door in front of her, that shuts. And she asks Nat, she's like, what's happening? And Nat's like, the building is in self-defense mode. And, it's cutting off connection to the greenhouses, and it's pumping carbon dioxide into them. And she says that, she's like, I'm coming for you. Riri's like, no. And she's like, just direct me to an unaffected greenhouse and get the rest of the crew to safety. So Nat starts to argue, and Riri's like, you have to save them. She's like, I'll be fine. So Nat is like, she doesn't really like this plan, but she has to go along with it. So security's still looking for the Hood. Another one gets taken out, then another, and then two more are looking around. Hood fires a couple bullets while invisible. They bend a little bit, takes out those two guys. Riri makes it to an unaffected greenhouse, but when she jumps down from the air vent, she must have landed wrong or something like that. I don't know if she twisted her ankle, but she's like in a little bit of pain, but she can still walk. She opens the door, and John's on the other side, and he's confused. He's like, why aren't you in your suit? Then he sees a piece of Hood in her hand. She's still walking around with it. She didn't put it in her pocket or anything like that. And then he's surprised to see it. She tries closing the door on him, but then he like pushes open. He's like, how'd you get that, Riri? He's like, where's Parker? So now, finally, she tucks it into her shirt, like into her bra or something like that. And she's like, John. He's like, what'd you do, Riri? And she's like, I can explain. He grabs her like roughly by the shirt and like kind of almost like lifts her. He's like, explain then, explain. He's like, why are you sneaking around with a piece of Parker's hood and no Parker? And he's like, I told you to stay in your lane, kid, right? And then she's like, or what? You do me like Rampage? He's like, what'd you say? She's like, I know y'all kill Rampage. And John's like, see, we don't do loose ends around here. And you just became one. And he slams her against a counter, and then it flips her like over, like slams her on a table. He's like, I knew you were trouble, Riri. It's like, I knew it. And I let him talk me down. It's like, I won't be making that mistake again. He grabs her leg. I don't know if it's a bad one because she's kind of in pain. He's like, starts dragging her, but then she kicks him like in the face with the other leg. Then he manages to grab her by the throat and kind of like slams her on the table. And then he pulls out a blade. It's like, I don't know. I guess he decided he can come in with the blade now since the alarms are already off. And then he's about to stab her, but she managed to grab a keyboard and blocks it just in time. So the blade's like halfway through. And then she shoves him off, and then she hits him in the head with the keyboard. And I guess it hurts more than you would think. And she loses the piece of mesh skin in the laser cutter. It like falls off her arm like onto the floor. Hood opens another greenhouse where Slug and Jerry are. They're like gasping on the floor. He helps them out. Nat in the suits like smashes through the ceiling where Roz and Clown are. So they're going to be fine. John and Rhea are grunting. He's like chasing after her, kind of slashing with a knife as she's like going down like the greenhouse, like aisles, whatever. And she tries like ducking between rows, but then he grabs her arm. She's able to grab like a bottle or something like that, smashes over his head. And then they're both like struggling to get to their feet. Both are like hobbling. And then there's like some plastic, I forget what those things are called, like the plastic strips that hang off like in freezers or whatever, like in, grocery stores or kitchens or something like that. So she manages to wrap a couple around his arms as he's like tries like stabbing at her, and she like kicks him in the leg or in the knee or something like that. So he kind of goes down to his other knee, and then he punches her with his other arms because it's free. And he's like, no, typically Parker likes to be present for demotions, but like what the hell is happening? And she's like, we're suffocating you, idiot. And she's like, please keep talking. So they're both gasping. The CO2 is like almost at 100%. It's just like rising. You see a little meter. And then the door opens and Nat in the suit's there. And then she like kind of envelops, like she goes over Riri. So Riri's inside. And I'm assuming there's some oxygen in there. So Nat's like, you okay? And she's like, yeah. And Nat's like, okay, I'll get you out of here. So they fly out. And an automated voice is like, doors seal in 3, 2, 1. John lunges, but then chunk, it shuts. He's like, no. He's like, Riri, open it. Open a damn door. And he just like crumples to the floor. But then it's like, wait, what did they forget? Where's the biomesh skin and the laser cutter? So the others, they get to the boat where it's like tied up. And Parker's like, where's John? And Riri lands by them. And Parker's like, anybody got eyes on him? And Slug's like, we can't wait. And then like the watchtower lights back on. And Parker's like, Riri, fly over and find him, please. So she closes her helmet. She lifts off and she's like flies. And she doesn't know what to say. And Parker comes like, Riri, you there? Do you see him? Did he make it out? And then she finds him like on a scan. She's like, I'm sorry. He's in one of the greenhouses and he's not moving. And Riri's like, I'm so sorry. So then later Riri lands on her patio. She's like, what did I do? And Nat's like, whoa, Riri. It's like your arm. It's like the biomesh. And she's like, no. Oh my, no. What did I do? And Nat's like tries getting her to breathe and like calm down. Parker's like screams, he slams down his hood like in his office or something. He's like, why? It's like, I trusted you. John trusted me, trusted you. I should have listened to him. And then the voices are whispering. He's like, what? He's like, was this part of the plan for John to die? He's like, answer me. I'm done with you. Then he sees like John's like choking body like on his knees. His like eyes are black. And he's like, no, stop. The voices are like whispering or whatever. And Parker's like, stop. He's like, why are you showing me this? And then there's like a shadow, like kind of over it. It's like, is it Riri's suit? So is it telling Parker that Riri was responsible for this? So Nat's like trying to get Riri to calm down. She's like, Riri, talk to me. Like, are you good? And she's like, no, I'm not. And that's the end of the 3rd episode. So things are getting messier and messier. It's like, man, Riri, you screwed up so bad. It's like, because you're so gung-ho on getting a piece of the hood in the middle of a mission, she's the one that triggers the alarm. And she's not looking to censor, and Nat's like, dude, the alarm is about to go off. And she's like, I almost got it, Like if she would have stopped, covered it, waited, and then started again after like 10 seconds, it would have been fine. But she set off the alarm, almost killed everyone. And yeah, even though they're not the most honest, whatever people, they're still human beings. So she almost kills everyone. She basically got John killed. It's her fault because they were fighting, and then they just left. And on top of all that, she leaves the biomesh behind with her laser cutter. So one, are there fingerprints on it? And then two, since it's the biomesh technology, are they going to be able to trace that back to Joe, Ezekiel, whatever? Which is his one thing. He's like, I don't want this to blow up back on me. So Riri, you screwed up, man. And just the fact she got John killed. It's kind of crazy. So this is not your typical hero. And now if Parker knows, he's not going to be happy. So that was episode 3. So 3 more episodes to go. But I think that's all we're going to talk about this week.
All right, now Squid Game 3. As I think I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not sure how much I'm going to cover, whether I'm going to do 1 or 2 episodes this week. My problem, as you know, I go so in depth, and even though I try not to, I just have such a hard time with that. And I'm just also looking as we have like so many others. I mean, we still have we just had we had Star Wars, we had Murderbot, we had Ironheart. So I just feel like it's going to make the show too long. And as I question, I don't know how much TV you guys want. You prefer just the movies? Do we want shows? But at the same time, we come into that problem I have where, like, okay, if you're like really into Squid Game, you're going to plow through all the episodes. But as I've been told with Andor, some people, they don't mind that so much, which is great for me, because they still want to hear. And maybe there's a small chance that I might have seen something you didn't, or maybe not. Or maybe you've seen something that I didn't, and you can be like, you're a knucklehead, what are you doing? So we'll see how long it takes me to get through 301. Maybe I'll do 302. I don't know. Okay, so 301 is Keys and Knives. So we're continuing it picks up right from where the last episode ended. We see that 145, player of 145 surrenders in the stair room. He puts down his rifle as the guards approach him. Then he gets shot. And then this other dude, 246, these numbers may not mean anything to you. I can't remember all their names. Yeah. So he gets shot. And so 246 puts his arms up. I don't think the other guy matters, 145. But 246, he begs not to be shot because he has a daughter at home. And so this is the guy that worked at, it wasn't a zoo or whatever, is where 11 worked as a mascot, Soldier 11. And this is the guy that had the little girl who has like some cancer or something like that. So he's doing the Squid Game so he can, get a surgery for his daughter or something like that. So he's like, I have a sick daughter at home. He gets shot and he just crumples to the floor. But he's not quite out. He's just told, the guy goes up. He's like, close your eyes. He's like, if you want to live, do as I say. So then the guard scans a chip like in his ears, and it's announced over to PA that player 246 has been eliminated. But he hasn't been. So fallen players are put into those black boxes with like the pink ribbon painted on there. A masked guard checks for pulse, and he's like, take him away. So the other guard puts a bloody cross on the side because that's when they mark them, when the ones that aren't dead. And the one guard goes up to the other. He's like, what's with you playing nice all of a sudden? It's not like you. So it's I can't even say her name. Guard 11. She's like, I gave it some more thought. If they're just going to die anyways, might as well give their organs to people who can still be saved. So the dude chuckles. He puts his arm on his shoulder. He's like, good call. He's like, I'm glad to hear you finally came around. So 11's like, I want to see it. He's like, see what? She's like, the operating room. And the dude's like, what for? She's like, well, now that we're partners, there shouldn't be any secrets between us. So the guards bring the death box to the common room. The other guards, those in there kind of look up to see who it is. The guards just leave the box there. Then 120, the one who was a soldier who's trying to get surgery to change her gender, gasps. So they see it's 456.
the old mom, she's like, is he dead? And 120's like, he's alive. Then she asks number 7, the lady's son. So I'm just going to call her mom and son because I don't remember their names. And I forget their, half the time I forget their numbers. So she asks son to help get him to bed. Meanwhile, Jun-ho, the detective, June, and the mercenaries are on the boat. They're looking for that guy that the captain killed last night, the drone pilot. And the captain suggested, like, oh, you must have been drinking. And because I think he put like empty bottles in his room. He's like, he could have gotten drunk and ended up falling overboard. The waves were pretty rough last night. And then Choi is the guy that worked with the loan shark guy that ended up working with 356. And, he's him and June are kind of like in charge of this, those two with 356. So Choi mentions that he heard something last night, and they're like, June's like, what time? He's like 3 a.m. And he's like, the captain was there. And Choi says, he's like, oh, we should have woken everyone up. So June says, well, we can search the area. And the captain's like, well, these are strong currents here. He's like, he would have drifted quite a ways, since last night. And if he was drunk, it's like, can you waste time looking for a corpse? So the other guy's like, we'll head to the nearest dock and we'll find another drone pilot. So it turns out the body already washed up ashore, like not too far from where the boat is at. So I don't know. No one finds it in this episode, so we'll have to see if they find out about that. Because I'm trying to remember how, something comes up later, like how did he die? Because obviously the captain did, I think he stabbed him with probably a screwdriver, right? So then G456 wakes up, the ma and son, the pregnant girl, she's number 222. And then the soldier, lady 120, they're standing over his bed. He like stands up, looks around, and there's some murmuring. They're like, how's he back? What's going on? And he's like, where's everyone else? So 120, the soldier, kind of looks down and asks what about Jung Bae, his friend, and 456 silent. So that's the guy that he was forced to watch get killed. So then it's flashback to Frontman's like, now witness the consequence of your little game. And again, Frontman is really player 1, but 456 doesn't know that. So then he shoots him, shot him in front of him. Several armed guards walk in. The light shines on the giant glass piggy bank that's hanging overhead. It fills up with more money. So the masked manager, he's like the lead guard or whatever he speaks. He's like, last night, another 35 players were eliminated, bringing the current number of remaining players to 60. The total prize now is 39.6 billion won. And so, of course, I looked that up. Let's see, I wrote that down. It's $29,081,509 US dollars. So then, and the masked guard's like, and each player's share is 660 million won, which would be $484,691.82. So 484, so not even 500,000 US dollars. We will now begin another round of voting to determine if you wish to proceed to the next game. 456 walks up to the front. He's like, why'd you let me live and no one else? Why didn't you kill me? He's like, answer me. He's like, what's it for, huh? Why didn't you let anyone else live? Why? And he grabs a guard's like machine gun, sticks it to his forehead. He's like, here, go ahead, shoot, go ahead, pull the trigger. He's like, do it, kill me, take the shot. So 2 other guards like pull him back. They like pin him to the floor. He's like, why'd you let me live? Why? He's like, what do you want from me? He's like, why didn't you kill me just like everyone else? And the rest of them, they're just like standing and watching. And 456 starts sobbing. He's like, you won. He's like, didn't you? He's like, go ahead, just take the fudging shot. And meanwhile, number 1, he's watching the front man. He's watching from his office with a drink. His phone rings. It's the boat captain saying that they just docked at the nearest port and they're going to find another drone pilot and head out again. The number 1 he's like, they must not find the island, not till we're done with all the games here. And then June, the detective, he gets off the boat with some others. Captain asks him, he's like, what? Captain asks number 1, the front man, he's like, what should we do if things go south? And number 1 pauses, and then he's like, kill them all, including the detective. But the detective, as you may remember, detective is June's brother. This is why June was there in the first place. He's trying to find his brother, and he got shot. His brother shot him. I think number 1, pretty sure he shot him, right? And that was in the first one. So he says, kill them, including his brother. So maybe he's just like, I can't deal with any more, hassles or whatever. So the mass manager says that they're going to begin another round. The mass manager, so that's the lead guard in the common room. I call it the common room. I don't know what you want to call it. Says they're going to begin another round of voting. Reverse player number order, just like before. And 456 is just sitting on a bed, and he's cuffed. So he's told, if you do not express an intent to vote by the count of 3, it will be considered an abstention. 1, 2, 3. Player 456 has forfeited his vote, and as such, his will not be added to either tally. So I was like, is everyone going to abstain now? Next, player 448, please cast your vote. She walks up, she looks at the buttons, and a man calls out. He's like, relax. She's like, we're not going to hurt you. Another man's like, yeah, you can vote either one. A third was like, yeah, just vote whatever you want. She votes O to keep going. And a man 4 is like, first one's with us. And she hands in her X patch and takes the O. Number 1 front man goes to the mass officer, and he is told, so far the confirmed casualties are 8 managers and 27 soldiers. So he's like, pull from the workers to replace the dead soldiers. Repair any damage to the facility as quickly as possible. The VIPs will arrive soon. Then he looks at some screens. Soldiers are organizing like lots of boxes with dead players. They're like put into the incinerators, but the ones that are marked, they drop down before the flames like burn there. Soldier 11's walking downstairs with that other guard. He asks, he's like, where'd you learn to shoot? Then he's like, wait, I remember that North Korean women have to serve in the military too. And he's like, why did you cross the border? And he's like, were things bad, or maybe you got into some hot water? And she doesn't answer. He's like, you said you were partners now, so we should get to know each other a bit. And she's like, we can meet on the outside when this is all over. I'll tell you everything then. He's like, well, I don't want to wait till then. He's like, there's a great place for a date nearby. Want to check it out? She's like, it's a long story. Let me see the operating room first. He's like, sure. Now, at this point, there's 18X to cancel, 41 to continue, 41O. Mass manager is like, in accordance with the results of your free and democratic vote, we will proceed with the next game tomorrow. So they leave. And it's just that stupid old businessman, scumbag dude, he's number 100, he calls out, hey, 456, tell me something. Was this part of your plan the whole time? That's it, isn't it? You get everyone to join your little rebellion so you can get rid of them all at once? Another loser guy's like, that means that earlier, why didn't I die? That poop was all an act. Wow, talk about a twisted freak. It's like, do you really believe that? Are you just like such a sheep that you believe this idiot dude? And then someone else, it's like, there must be a reason why they spared him, isn't there? Then 100's like, you helped us win our vote today. Thanks for that. And he's like, oh, we should give him a round of applause. 456, he doesn't look up. Then Xian, the annoying like Karen lady who thinks she's like psychic or whatever, she has 2 like disciples with her, and she comes up to, she's standing by him. Oh, you poor fool. What did I tell you? You're not here of your own volition, are you? It was the vengeful souls hanging over you that dragged you here. And she crouches like in front of him and kind of like looks around. Do you hear that? It's the sound of all your little friends screaming into your ears from the dead. But cover them all you want. It won't stop the noise. You'll only hear the screams louder each day, and you're going to continue to hear them from now until the day you die. But it's like, too bad he doesn't just like headbutt her or something like that, because she's so annoying. And he slowly looks up at her, and she keeps like laughing. And then he reaches and he grabs her by the throat. So her 2 lackeys like pry his hand off her, because he's still cuffed. So he's got his one hand. They're like, let her go. And then he like reaches out again, but he's still handcuffed. And she like kind of leaves in a huff. Just got nothing to say now. The others kind of look at him, like mom, the son, 222, the pregnant girl, and 120, the soldier. They're like a little ways away, and they're like, what's going on with him? Because that's kind of out of character. But in the operating room, the box with 246 bodies open. The guy, I must be the doctor, he checks for pulse. He's like, oh, we'll be able to get some good stuff from him. Door opens, and the soldier and the soldier at 11 comes in. And the dude, he's like, oh, relax. He's like, 11 is on our side now. And one guy's like, why'd you bring her all the way down here? And the dude's like, oh, we should get to know each other a little. And he's like, the guys here before us, they wound up getting caught because they wanted to keep secrets. There was no trust. That's why we agreed to not wear our masks in here, isn't it? And they don't reply because I guess they kind of agree. Then the dude looks at 11. She takes off her mask, and the doctor's like, "You're number 11. You know how much money we lost because of the poop you pulled out there?" Because she would give like kill shots when she didn't have to. And the other guy's like, "That's enough." He's like, "We got to hurry if we're gonna make it." So then the third guy, he calls 11 over. He's like, "Oh, I'll walk you through the whole thing." He like kind of puts his arm around her. He's like, "There's a president on the table now. He's still alive, right, Doc?" And Doc's like, "Yeah, just unconscious. Let's all thank number 11 for the lovely gift. Time to open it." So they prepare to cut at his chest. And then 11 elbows a dude and she grabs her rifle, like, because she had set it down when she took her mask off. And she's like, "Freeze." And one guy's like, "What the fudge?" And the dude's like, "Hey, I thought you were one of us." The second guy that was with her, like, reached for his rifle. She shoots. And then the third guy grabs at her rifle. The rifle starts shooting at the ceiling, but he grabs it out of her hand, but then and kind of like knocks her down. But she grabs his pistol out of like one of his holsters as she's going down. The dude aims the rifle at her, but she shoots him first. And one of the others, probably like the second guy, I don't know, tries to shoot at her, starts shooting, but she shoots him under the operating table. And then the dude who brought her there, he goes to grab a rifle, but then she shoots at it and he like flinches back. And then she's like, "You wanted to know why I crossed the border?" She's like, "I had a commander a lot like you up there. I shot him in the head." And the dude, he starts smiling and chuckling. I don't know why, because then she shoots him in the middle of his forehead. And then the doctor kind of he was hiding behind like something. He puts his hand up. He's like, "Don't kill me. I swear I'm not one of them. I just got roped into this. They offered me money." And she goes over to 246's body. So he again, he's the guy with the sick daughter. She's like, "This man, save him." And she points her gun at the doc. "If he dies, so do you." So in the common room, the dude who took Thanos' necklace, he opens it. There's 5 pills left inside. 2 blue, 1 red, and 2 yellow. I don't know if the colors matter, if they're all the same. Because Thanos just took them. I mean, I don't remember if he like knew what he was taking. Maybe they're all the same, just different colors. So he takes a blue one, whatever. And it's like Thanos would take them before a game to I don't know, pump himself up. This guy's just taking it now. They're just sitting in the room. So I don't know. He just takes one as he's sitting like on a cot. People are getting food and water. 333 gives 222 his potato. So 333 is the father of the baby, the unborn baby. They were the ones dating before. So he gives her, I think it's a potato. He's like, "Oh, I know they're your favorite." So he goes to sit in a spot. He just leaves. 456 is still handcuffed. 120 is in line, kind of like in front of him. And she doesn't really like look at him. But then the mom goes up to him to give him some food. And her son is like, "No, just try stopping her." And she says, like, "I'll be fine." And she tells her son, she's like, "Oh, just go eat yours." She tells 456 that he needs to eat. But he doesn't take it, doesn't look at her. She like sits. She's like, "Listen, I know you wanted to help us. You're trying to save everyone out there, to teach those bad people a lesson, to end this whole thing." And then 120 comes up. She's like, "Sorry, I should have done more to bring the ammo back to you." And the son's like, "Why are you sorry? This is Daeho's fault." He's like, "I saw it. My mom saw it. Everyone here saw what happened." So Daeho was the other guy who said he was a soldier, but then he's the guy that like chickened out. He's like, as soon as Daeho got here, he took the rounds, went to leave, but then just froze and sank right to the floor. It was like by the time Hyunju 120 got here, it was already too late. The guards all started to rush in. If me and mom hadn't stopped her, then 120 Hyunju would have died too. It's like, that's the truth, right? But then, mom's like, whatever, just that won't bring anyone back from the dead. So let's just focus on who's still here. So she tells Ford, she's like, "Go on, try to eat a little." But he just sits there. And then he turns and he looks at Daeho, who's like sitting and like eating like a little ways away. Outside, we see a phone screen that says November 4th. So it's the 4th day to search. June, the detective, he's crossing off areas on like islands and stuff on a map, I guess, that they checked out. Choi Woo Seok, he knocks. He's like, "Oh, I thought we could chat over, a drink and some snacks." So he like pours a drink, and then June's like, "None for me." And he is like, "What's on your mind?" So Choi's hesitant, but then he's like, "It's about the captain." He's like, "You were saying that when you almost drowned, he's the one who found you at sea?" And June's like, yeah, I fell into the water after I got shot on the island. He's the one who rescued me and then took me to the hospital. And Choi's like, well, is there anything else you remember? And he's like, no, I woke up in the hospital room. My mother was the one who told me what he did. Why? And Choi's like, he's like, do you remember this morning I said I went outside last night because of the noise I heard? And June's like, yeah, the captain said he heard it too. He's like, yeah, the captain said he heard it too. And Choi's like, yeah, and I really didn't think it was strange then, but now looking back at it, when I saw him, he was holding something in his hand. And June's like, what? He's like, a screwdriver. And then there's like a flashback. You know, he sees that. He's like, I know it was dark and all, but I'm sure he was holding a screwdriver. That's just a little weird, isn't it? Why would he have something like that in his hand? And June's like, maybe he was working on the boat. And Choi's like, no, he said he was in bed when he heard the strange noise. And June's like, what if he wanted a weapon to defend himself because he felt like something was off? And Choi's like, well, I guess it still seems weird. And June's like Woo-suk. He's like, you think Captain Park has something to do with this? Is that what you're trying to say? That's what you're saying, isn't it? And he's like, listen, he's like, I can always trust my gut. And it's telling me there's something fishy going on with the captain. And he's right. Then June's like, this is the man who saved my life, who spent years trying to help me track down the island. And even now, that's what he's doing. And he's like, yeah, I know that he is. And look, I'm not saying he actually did anything to the drone pilot for sure. It's only that my gut. And then June's like, last night you were with the drone pilot. You were drinking with him, weren't you? And he's like, yeah, but not a lot. It was just a few. And he like pours himself another drink as he's saying that. So June's like, we're setting out pretty early. You should go get some sleep. And he's like, oh, sure, okay. And June's like, and no more alcohol on the boat starting tomorrow. He's like, okay. And then he just like leaves the bottle. Back in the common room, guards stand watch. 356 still hasn't eaten. He's staring at Daeho sleeping, and softly he's like, you mother trucker. They died while you sat around. And then some music comes on. Some warped classical music plays on the speakers. The lights go on. 356 is just glaring at Daeho as he wakes up, and he Daeho's like sits up or like rubs his eyes, and he sees he's being glared at. And he tries like looking away, but then he looks back. 356 still glaring at him. Over to PA. They say that the fourth game will begin momentarily. Follow staff instructions and make your way towards game hall. The front man, number one, he's told the VIPs have arrived. The contestants, they go into the big stair room. There's lots of bullet holes from the battle, like on the walls and the stairs. Blue Danube's playing over the speakers. Contestants are surprised because they see like 8 dead bodies hanging by their wrists, like in the middle. It's like in the middle of the giant stair room. The PA's like, what you see here is the fate of those who refuse to accept the results of our free and democratic voting process by attempting to forcibly put an end to the games through violent means. Let us be clear, we will not tolerate any further irrational behavior or attempts to violate the fair, just... And then Daeho's lips kind of quiver, and 356 glares at him, and Daeho coughs, and he looks back, and he catches 356's eyes. The PA continues, such actions will be punished in accordance with our strict regulations. We would like to thank you all for your understanding and cooperation. And then later, they're like, in this one room, welcome to the fourth game. For this game, you will be divided into 2 teams. Before we can begin, all players must first receive their team assignment. Please step forward, one at a time, and draw a ball from the machine in front of you. So it looks like a big, giant, like gumball machine with red and blue balls inside. In the surgery room, the doc continues working. He tells 11 that the major internal organs look good. He was able to stitch him up. And she's like, but? He's like, he needs a transfusion to live, and we don't have any blood here. And she's like, use mine then. And he's like, what's your type? And she's like, type O. At first I was like, how do you know that it's going to match? So I'm glad that they covered that detail. In the game room, the balls are shuffled. So again, players either get a red ball or a blue one. 222, 333 get separate colors. Everyone's, because they have no idea what's going on. Ma, she gets a red one. The son gets a blue, so they're separated. She tells them, she's like, it'll be all right. It's like, they haven't said what we're playing yet. 456 is the last one. He gets a red one. And Daeho got blue. And he quickly looks away. The doctor, he goes to stick a needle in 11's neck, and she's like, don't try anything, because she's like still holding her gun. But so I don't know, I'm no doctor, no surgeon, but it's weird. Why would he stick the needle in her neck and not in her arm? because they're just going to do a transfusion. I don't know. Does it pump more from the neck? I don't know. So the masked manager talks. The game you'll be playing today is hide and seek. Players on the blue team must either find the exit and escape within 30 minutes or stay hidden to avoid being caught by members of the red team before the game ends. And they're also given like red or blue vests to put on. And someone's asked, like, then what do we do? Is it like the kids' version? Do we just have to find them and then they're out? Players on the red team must find the members of the blue team hiding throughout the arena and kill them within 30 minutes. Players like gasp and what? Each player on the red team must find and kill a player on the blue team. If you fail to kill at least one, you'll be eliminated. A lady in blue, she's like, so all those people, they're going to try to kill us? That is correct. And the mom, she's red, she looks at her son, who's blue. 120, who's blue, looks like over, like 222, the pregnant girl's red. 120, like, looks in the box they have, and there's like a necklace with some sort of pendant. And she's like, what is this? The item you have been given is a key that can be used to unlock doors in the arena. And in the annoying 100 guy, he's blue. Using these keys, you'll be able to access new areas during the game. However, once the door has been opened, it cannot be locked again. There's a red guy, I think it's 226, he calls on. He's like, hold on. So those guys can either hide and wait it out, or they use their keys to escape? Sounds like an unfair advantage to me. This other red guy, he's like 96 or something, it doesn't matter. He's like, it's not just that. You're saying we got to kill one, right? And without any tools? And then another red guy, 336, he's like, it doesn't make any sense at all. I don't suppose any of them will just stand there and ask us to do it. You guys really expect us to do it with our bare hands? These points are valid, and we completely understand your concerns. That's why we thought ahead and prepared a small gift for the red team as well. So they're handed like red boxes. Please open your boxes and inspect their contents. So 124, Thanos' buddy, he opens the box, and there's like a blue and pink dagger, like kind of fancy handle, whatever. And he like takes out, touches the blade, and it like cuts him. It's like super sharp, and he laughs. There's more murmuring from the others. Mom stares at her blade. You can use these knives to attack the players on the blue team, but please note, members of the red team are not allowed to attack each other. 100 yells, shall we at least get a shield or something? Others complains, like, we just got a key, that's not very fair. And a red guy's like, yeah, those keys will open doors and you could actually get out of here. Someone else is like, you could just find a place to hide. It's like, you've got it easy. One guy says to 100, he's like, hey, Gramps, he's like, you're good at hiding, aren't you? Like a rat. Before we begin today's game, we would like to first give you an opportunity to change your fate. If any of you are not satisfied with your currently assigned role, you may instead choose to switch sides with someone from the opposing team before the game begins. So the super annoying lady puts her hands up to pray, and both her disciples, they're all on the same team, and they start like praying as well. As long as both parties agree, you may trade your vest and item with another player. However, once the game begins, removing your own vest or attempting to switch vests with any other player is strictly prohibited. So please consider carefully before making your decision. So 333, the dude, he's wearing blue. He looks at 222, the pregnant girl, she's red. 456 looks at his blade, and he glances over Daeho, 388. The rest, they're just like murmuring because they're not sure like which is worse. At the ship dock, June introduced the others to the new drone pilot. It says he was hard to come by, so let's make him feel welcome. The captain kind of like glares at him. He's just like standing there. And then he points out, the captain says that they're all wearing life jackets, so no more accidents. June calls Choi on the phone because he says, they're about to head out. It's like, where is he? He's like, oh, I'm not coming. He's like, there's something I got to look into. And June's like, is this about what you said last night? And Choi like sighs. He's like, I know it sounds weird, but my gut tends to be right. It's like, I'll be in touch if I find anything. Until I do, be careful around the captain. And he like cuts the call before June can say anything. So Choi was kind of like hiding behind a van by the docks, like watching him. He gets in. There's a guy behind the wheel, and I don't. He might have been like in the beginning of the second season, because he's like, "What are we doing?" He's like, "Why'd you call me so early?" He's like, "I like to sleep in on my day off." And Choi's like, "Your old boss is dead," and this like gets his attention. So I think his old boss was the loan shark guy. And he's like, "What?" He's like, "What do you mean? What happened to him?" And Choi's like, it's kind of a long story. And he's like, why didn't you call me? He's like, why didn't I know, huh? He's like, yeah, I left the crew to go straight, but still, it's the boss. And Choi's like, it's not like that. It's like, okay, rock, paper, scissors -1? Well, So the boss and I were playing it like this, and he holds out two hands, and he needed to take back one hand. Anyways, let's go get hangover soup and head out, okay? And the dude driving, he's like, what happened then? He's like, finish the story. And Troy's like, just start the car. I'll fill you in on the way. And he's like, you're being weird, dude. So the annoying lady, 44, she's standing like on some steps, and she's like, not a single one of you will leave here alive, not while you walk alone. So instead, it is I, Sionya, shaman of the sea, who will guide your way to the path of life. I see everything inside this place, and I can see the way ahead, all from here. And so she's talking to 4 people. He's like, it is not with my eyes I see. The gods of heaven and earth themselves have taken my hand. They're guiding us with their light. It's like, whatever. 125, Minsu, he's a timid guy that got kind of roped into being on Thanos' team that ended up killing him. He stares at his blade. 124 goes up to him. That's the dude that has the drugs now, Thanos' friend. He's like, have you ever killed before? And he's like, there's still time to switch teams if you can't. And he's like, you're good at hiding. He's like, where were you last night? And he talks about the one girl that was also on our team. He's like, man, she thought she was Wonder Woman. She got what she deserved. And the timid guy just doesn't say anything. He's like, wait, you saw it and you hid and you didn't do anything? It's like, oh, man, she really had a soft spot for you. He's like, poor Minsu. Yeah, I just love that look in your eyes. He's like, keep that going. Once you get in there, bro. He's like, then you got to take them out. And he like takes out the necklace, the Thanos' cross. He's like, that fudging SOB Thanos is dead. It's like, I thought he liked him. He's like, and same with our whole crew. It's just you and me now. It's like, think how lonely I'll be if I lose you too. And he's a little sarcastic. He's like, so I need you to be a man this time. And he imitates Thanos like, you could do it, my bro, Minsu. I miss Thanos. I hated him in the beginning, but I keep hoping he's like, maybe Thanos, maybe he's not really dead. No. So 333, the dude that tells 222, the pregnant girl, to switch with him, just to take the key. It's the only way out of this. And she's like, leave me alone. She's like, I don't need your charity. And she turns to walk away, but he like grabs her like arm, he stops her. He's like, what do you mean, leave you alone? He's like, I know you won't be able to hurt anyone with that thing. She's like, you don't know anything about me. He's like, maybe not, but I do know this. You're not a murderer. He's like, here, hand it over. I'll go and find someone to take out. Then I'll come find you. I'll do what it takes for you and our kid. And she's like, it's that easy for you to kill someone? He's like, yes, I'd do anything for you and a reward, even if it meant killing everyone. She's like, and I'd do anything to keep my baby safe. So he's like, then kill me in there. I'll come find you once the game starts. You stab me and get out. You'll both get to live then. And she doesn't say anything. So the son, he's blue, he's talking to his mom. He's like, give me the knife. And she's like, oh no. She's like, I can find another player on your team to switch. That way we can stay together and keep. He's like, Mom, please. He's like, you know how bad your knees are. He's like, those a-holes, the red, he's like, they'll stick together like a pack of wolves. If we try to stay together, they're going to hunt us down. And she's like, oh no. It's like, I know my son. Even if you had one of these, the blade, it's like you couldn't kill anyone. Even as a kid, you'd get into those fights in the neighborhood. You'd get so beat up because you'd just stand there. It's like, you've never even thrown a punch, let alone killed anyone. And he's like, well, you're no different. He's like, could you chase someone down and kill him like that? Dad beat you all the time. You never fought back or anything. And he's like, I will try. I'll do this. He's like trying to convince her. 100, the annoying older dude. He sees like a blue dude switch with a timid lady, so he's got red now. Then he sees 456 just sitting there, so he goes up to him like all friendly. He's like, hi, I was just wondering if you'd consider switching. 456 raises his head, gives him like just such a look, and 100 almost like flinches. He just quickly like backs away. Deho's talking to a lady on the red, and he's like, I'd stay by you and protect you. And she pulls the box back. She's like, you'd still need to kill another player. And he's like, Jesus, just look, just listen. He's like, I'll handle that. Don't worry. I'll keep you safe. I swear. It's like, trust me. And he like grabs her shoulders. He's like, I won't let you down. And she like shakes her head, and he like gets up. He's like frustrated. Then he sees 456 looking at him, and they kind of stare at each other for a bit. Then he like marches over to 456. He's like, what? What's your deal, huh? Why do you keep staring at me? He's like, and 456 doesn't say anything. He just keeps looking. He's like, what? He's like, you think it's my fault we're still here? That is all because of what I did? 456 doesn't say anything. We couldn't have won, Gyun. He's like, and it was stupid to even think everything we could. He doesn't say anything. He's like, gee, idiot. He like drops his box and grabs 456 like collar. He's like, will you quit looking at me like that? It's not my fault. He doesn't say anything. He's like, listen, we should have gone after those bastards who hit the O button. Then we would have had a chance. We could have won the fight. We would have won the vote. He's like, doesn't say anything. He's like, this is your fault. You and your ridiculous plan. That's why everybody else is dead. This is your fault. He's like, you're the one who got them all killed. And then a guard sticks his rifle in Deho's back. And he like glances back, puts his hands up. 456 just stares at him. So a woman on a PA, attention. The games will begin momentarily. All players on the blue team, please get ready. You'll be entering the arena first. The boat heads out the dock. Captain asks June, he's like, what happened to Troy? And he says that he called him just before he left. He said he had a family emergency. And the captain's like, oh, all of a sudden? And June's like, I guess so. And the captain's like, maybe he got scared and bolted. He's like, guys like him act so tough, but they're cowards deep down. He's like, I see it as a good thing. All he ever did was drown himself in booze anyways. So Captain just, because he doesn't trust him. He knows that he can, since he was out there when he killed that other dude, he's just worried that he actually saw something. And he's right to worry. At the game, 44 is at the front, to exit, followed by her disciples, and everyone's like walking out in a single file line. So the son tells mom to find a good spot to hide. So she ended up switching with him. So he's red now. He's like, I'll just get it over with and come find you. He's like, I'll stay with you and I'll keep you safe. She's like, I'll be okay. I mean, think how often your dad threatened to kill me when he was drunk. In the end, which one of your parents died first? And the son's like, Dad did. She's like, so you really think I'm going to die here? Besides, I have my secret weapon and I'll use it if I have to. So she's talking about her like sharp like hair stick thing that she could like stab someone. And she's like, don't worry. She's like, I'll be just fine. It's like, you focus on making it through, whatever it takes, so we can both leave this place together. So 222 goes up to 333 in line, and she's like, swear on your life. And she has the vest and blade in her hand. He's like, I swear I'll find you. So she's going to give him the red. Guards open the doors to the arena. The blue team looks around. They're like there's like blue ceilings with like yellow stars like painted on there. There's like almost like different paths. There's different stairs. So this is just a small room. At first I was like, this is a really small arena. I was like, are these, it almost look like blocks. It's like, are they rooms? But I guess we're not only getting a glimpse of it at this point. So the door's shut behind him. PA says that they'll have 2 minutes until the red team enters. So 100's like, hey, everyone. She's like, we should all spread out and don't just try to hide. We need to look for the exit. When someone finds a way out of here, we should shout it out. So that way we can all come to them. And others like yeah, we shall work together. Then at this point, they have just over a minute and a half. So in the other room, it's down to a minute. The red team's waiting. Thanos' buddy goes up to the timid guy. He's like, want to work together? And the timid guy's like, what? And the other guy's like, you think they'll just let us kill them? He's like, use your head. He's like, of course not. He's like, they'll come at us with everything they have, which means if we work as a team in there, we're going to need the advantage. So 222 hasn't really found a place to hide. She starts getting some discomfort. Like, I don't think she's going into labor at this point, but, she's just like kind of leaning against the wall. The mom sees her, is like, are you okay? And 120 comes down some stairs, and she's like, oh, come on. She's like, we'll go together. So they go out into, like, I guess, the main part of the arena. Thanos' friend's still talking to the timid guy. He's like, geez, I'm not asking for a relationship or anything. It's just a one-night stand. And he's like, and when he took Thanos out like that, it was fudging amazing. So the time's up. PA's like, please enter. And he's like, so are we a team? The timid guy nods. But it's like, wait, why does he need a team? I guess because they're probably going to be fighting back, even though they have blades and the other ones don't. I don't know. So then he imitates Thanos. Let's get it. They head in. 456 stands and he whispers, it's all your fault. And he starts walking with the blade gripped in his hand. That's the end of the first episode. So it's off to a good start. And, with this point, what's hard for me is because there's, I believe, 6 episodes. And now is the part where they try to avoid spoilers. And that's the tough part. I don't know, can I avoid spoilers for 6 weeks? Because it came out Friday, and it was like late Friday. People were talking about like that ending explained, or what does that mean? And it's like, are you serious? It's like, just relax. And even like the Netflix Instagram, like they post spoilers on there, so it's going to be tough. It's gonna. I don't know how many I can watch, so we'll see. All right, now the movie feature is Jurassic World Rebirth.
And I'm kind of torn on this. There's some good things about this movie. There's some really cool things, and there's some just really annoying things about this. So with the Jurassic World franchise, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, I don't know if I'm a fan. I'm not like a huge fan. I know there's some people who are really like hardcore, like they love these movies or anything like that, and I've always been okay with them. I have like some nostalgia. Like I remember like the first movie came out, and I remember at the theater, they had this like amazing sound sound system and everything, and you just could really feel the digital sound, and it's just like so loud, and just dinosaurs, and it was cool for what it was. Now the same thing, I don't go back and watch these movies. I can't remember the last time I've seen them. I played like the Lego Jurassic Park games, and I feel like I've relived like a lot of the movies because of those games. But I'm not a huge fan. And then with the Jurassic World stuff, as you know, the Chris Pratt character, he bugs me sometimes, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's just his presence where he's just so sure of himself, or he can do everything. And it's just it comes across as just tiresome, and it's kind of ridiculous where. I don't care if you're a dinosaur expert. It's like you can't predict how these massive beasts are going. I don't know. It's just, and I don't even remember. Like, was he just did he just raise them? Was he any sort of sign? Like whatever. It's just ridiculous. So with this movie, when I was like, wait, they're making another Jurassic World movie. I was like, oh man, because the last one, I guess, was 2022. So it's 3 years ago. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but time flies and all that. And even with the last ones, when we look at it, I feel like I don't remember if it was the last one or one before that. Maybe it was the last one. I feel like I was like, man, they're really pushing things, because once they got into the whole cloning of a human, I was like, you're kind of taking this fictional world into a whole different directions, where you can have an actual clone person living and functioning, and not have any like Spider-Man decomposing problems or whatever. And I was like, that's kind of nuts. It's like, what does that mean? That changes the way the world is going to operate. And then the fact that you had all these dinosaurs, when all these dinosaurs got loose, I'm like, holy crap, what does this mean for the world? When you're having these dinosaurs, like these flying dinosaurs, whatever, just going out and settling in different habitats, that is going to change everything. And we do kind of see some of that. So I can really respect that in this movie, where we see that the world is kind of adapted to living. These dinosaurs are back, and there's a dinosaur in the city. Oh, okay, yeah, there goes traffic. No, now what? But then we also see that a lot of them are dying off because they're not in the right living conditions, which is a tragic thing. I think that's, unfortunately, it's kind of good in a way to kind of normalize the world a little bit. Because if all of a sudden we're like in suburban America or whatever, London or whatever you want to talk about, and then you have the idea of where dinosaurs can be out, that changes everything. But now by having something that makes sense to me as a not scientific person, dinosaur expert, or anything like that, the idea that, well, dinosaurs can't just live in our regular climate, that they're going to need like certain conditions in order to live, or they're going to die out. That makes sense. And so we're not going to have dinosaurs walking down, the street, because the weather's probably not what they need. Okay, I get that. But when I heard that they're making this movie, aside from those things, and so it sounds like they're kind of rectifying some of that, which is great. But I was like, do we really need another movie? Because it almost felt like when you're doing the clone stuff and unleashing the dinosaurs upon the world, I was like, what more can you do? If dinosaurs are everywhere, they kind of lose their charm a bit. There's going to be nothing exciting, as we see that they're like, oh, there we go again. And the Jonathan Bailey character, and he's at a museum or something like that,
and I think he said like the last month or something like that, or last day, they only sold like 12 tickets, because no one really cares to see it anymore because they're so used to it. So I was like, why are we making this other movie? And I do find it interesting that this movie doesn't have any reoccurring characters. Thankfully, sorry. Oh, we don't have Chris Pratt back, and we don't have Dallas Bryce Howard's character. We don't see anyone returning. So I thought that was an interesting choice. I was like, I think that's kind of bold in a way, where it's like, let's kind of start over, and not without starting over. It's not like rebooting anything or whatever, but the fact that we can explore a story with new characters, I think that's a good thing. That it's almost like a clean slate. The fact that they're touching on a lot of things and maybe kind of tightening some stuff a little bit. I think that's great. That's really a good direction. And Gareth Edwards, he's a talented movie maker. So you also have that to consider, as I'm gonna like be kind of poo-pooing on certain things of the movie. But overall, I mean, man, we have some gorgeous locations. I feel like a lot of times with the Jurassic Park movies, Jurassic World movies, it's almost kind of limited, and you don't get to see anything. But this one island that we see, and you get to see so much, and I feel like it's a bigger territory than from what I recall. So that's another plus. So what is happening here? Dinosaurs are kind of dying out. They've kind of sort of migrated towards like around like the equator, where like the temperature is like a certain climate there. So there certain regions, certain whatever, they tend to go there, and a lot of these areas have been kind of declared as like off limits. Like it's just too dangerous to go there, so no one is supposed to visit these places. Okay, which is like how you can't monitor that. You can't put like a big fence across like the Atlantic Ocean or anything like that. But the other, what really drives this is you have your typical questionable businessman, pharmaceutical guy, and he wants to make a cure for Rupert Friend plays this guy. He basically. There's a way that they can come up with a cure for like heart disease and like all this stuff like that, but for some reason they need samples from living dinosaur hearts or blood or whatever like that, because once they're dead, it's like the conditions aren't right or whatever. So they need to get samples from 3 particular giant species of dinosaurs. And to do that, you have to go into the no trespassing whatever territory. And the fact that these things are so massive, it's dangerous. So the dude, he goes up to Scarlett Johansson, who is I don't even know what you would call her. She's she's kind of like a mercenary, basically, like that, but she doesn't refer to herself as that. She's called what safety environment. I forget how she said it, but he basically wants to offer her a lot of money to lead a team, and the Jonathan Bailey scientist character to get these samples, and he tries making it as this is going to save or at 20 years of the lives of people, and so many people are going to benefit from this, but of course. He can offer all this money because if they're the only pharmaceutical company that has this cure, then obviously they're going to be able to sell it for insane amounts, which is where it's like, oh, he's just shady businessman, whatever, you have that. So blah, blah, blah. They finally agreed to go there. Now, the part that is annoying is we see, and I'm going to kind of spoil a little bit, not really, but as they're headed towards the dangerous territory, they're in the ship, they're going there, and we also see what's his name, Maher
Mahershala Ali. He's like another guy that Scarlett Johansson had worked with, and he's got a boat and everything like that. So as they're headed there, we see this smaller boat going across Atlantic or whatever, and there's a father and his two daughters, like a little daughter, she's probably like 8 or 9 or something like that, and then like a teenage, or actually the daughter is about to go to college, and her boyfriend. And the boyfriend is like a total slacker dude, which is annoying. And basically this family becomes annoying. And this is one of the things that I hated about the movie. And yes, hated. They're extremely annoying characters. And I get why you need the inclusion of these annoying characters. You need some bumbling. You need some whatever, knuckleheads. Otherwise, there's nothing to drive the story, the plot. Because you have to have, especially in movies like this, you have to have some people who aren't like trained military mercenary experts or whatever, or scientists. You have to have other people. Otherwise, there's no danger. And then it's like, well, how are you going to have, you're not going to have people blindly running around from, away from dinosaurs. You're going to have, knowing that we can, because like if I'm watching all this like army forces or whatever dealing with dinosaurs, like, okay, that's not real to me, but you have this other whatever. So this boat, they run into a little trouble. So they put out like a mayday, and then the Mahershala Ali, his character, he's like, well, we need to save him. And even though the pharmaceutical guy doesn't want to do that, because they're supposed to be in this sort of, it's whether it's ethical or not, and he's like, well, we just get the sample and they'll be fine there. They got a radio that, someone will find them, or we can come back. And then what's annoying is when they find out that they're going to continue on their mission, and they can't really say what they're doing. They're like they're mad because it's like, okay, they went out of their way to rescue you, and then you're getting mad that they're not just going to drop everything and drop you off at some harbor somewhere. That they're going to, just go, 20 miles this way or 30 miles and do this, and then, they'll drop them off somewhere. And it's almost like they're very demanding. And one thing that happens with the daughter, you could say, oh, she's feisty. She's, standing up for stuff, which is great. We need that. But one thing that happens to her is just, I don't know how, I don't want to spoil that, but at one point when the ship is, there's like some dinosaur swimming creatures, whatever, and the ship is kind of getting attacked and stuff. So the dad tells the daughter, like, go down to the radio and call out a mayday. So she does that. It's like, one, it's not their boat to be doing that. And then the pharmaceutical guy, he's like, no, let's not do that. And she's like getting in his face, and then the ship gets bumped, and then she like slides out, and she's like hanging on the rail, and then she's mad at him because he didn't do anything. But it's like, okay, the whole ship is rocking, and maybe he was petrified. Maybe he's probably thinking, oh, should I try to save her or not? But then if he tries to save her, he could end up putting his, he's just a business dude. And I'm not saying you shouldn't just watch someone hanging there. You should try to save them. But he's not equipped to save her. Probably if he did try to save her, he would probably like go over the edge or something. But it's just this whole attitude that she has, and she's like, I'm going to kill him and whatever. So, spoiler, she doesn't die there or anything. So, but it's just, these characters are just kind of annoying. Another thing is, I will spoil this, when they get to this island nearby, the little girl, she finds this little dinosaur, and it kind of follows them. And she's like, I'm going to bring it home. And it's like, okay, one, how big is this thing going to get? And so it's just like, oh, I found a baby, jaguar. I'm going to take it home and have it live in my house, even though it's going to get huge and whatever. But you're going to take this dinosaur. And then the other thing, you're going to take it home where
dinosaurs are dying all over the world because they're not in the right climate. So you're going to take this thing off this island, off its where it's now it's its habitat, and you're going to take it home to wherever you live and hope that it doesn't die like within 3 weeks of being there. So you have all that. So that's basically the movie is them trying to survive, trying to get the samples and survive. So now, because it flashes back at the beginning at this one facility where they were doing experiments, because with the Jurassic Park stuff, people were kind of getting tired of the same old dinosaurs. So some scientists or people were trying to create like cross-species dinosaurs, basically like mutant dinosaurs. So while we'll get a lot of the same dinosaurs that we've seen, this is where the franchise kind of expands a little bit, because it's like, okay, oh, there's a big Tyrannosaurus Rex, cool. But can Tyrannosaurus Rexes like swim? That's one thing I want to know. With their little tiny, they have their tail, they can swim, or they can move it, but could they swim? I don't know, and I'm not going to look that up right now. Maybe someday I will, or someone will tell me. But it's like, oh, Tyrannosaurus, oh, a raptor. We've seen these things so many times. Because what is there like 7 movies now, or I forget how many there are. So by having these like mutant dinosaurs, you can come up with like other things, and I think that there's maybe some. You don't have to worry about being so accurate. It's like, okay, we're gonna make this Dilophosaurus or whatever. I don't know if that's a real dinosaur or not. Sounds like maybe. You don't have to worry about, okay, so that the neck, the proportion, it should be this, it shouldn't be longer than this, and like, oh, it should only have like ridges here. It shouldn't. By making these mutants, like, you can do whatever heck you want, and you can make them scarier, or smarter, or smaller, and do. So I think that kind of opens a new doorway to do some things, but I don't know. And then I love Scarlett Johansson as an actress. I think she's great. But looking at like the characters, like the character does some important things. It does a lot of important things, but it's almost just like, was it really necessary? And one thing I did read, that when they were coming up with the story, that the character, they didn't, which I kind of like, they didn't, when they were coming up with her character, it wasn't like gender specific. So it wasn't like, okay, we're gonna make a new movie. Let's try to get someone titillating or someone to try to sell the movie. It turned out that Scarlett Johansson was like a fan of the franchise, and I guess has been wanting to take part in it or something like that. And it just worked out. Whatever, all other pieces fell into place where they're like, oh, we can get her, and we can develop the character further with her as that character. So I thought that was cool, that it's not like, let's just try to make a Scarlett Johansson led, Jurassic Park. And so I think that's great. And I do appreciate the fact that she is willing to do this, because a lot of actors after a while, they're like, yeah, I'm too good for that. I'm not going to go back and do this franchise movie, So I appreciate that. And then Jonathan Bailey is like the nerdy scientist. It's like, okay, pretty good shape for being in a lab all day and being in a museum. I don't know. But yeah, so, overall, it was a fine movie. If you look at the Rotten Tomato, critics are at the critics' consensus, whatever, is at a 52%. So people aren't loving it. And I guess I would kind of agree, because I don't feel like this is necessarily giving us anything completely new. There are some little elements that are pushing things along, but it's nothing really groundbreaking. Nothing like nothing extraordinary. Just like, holy crap. They're pushing things maybe a little bit further, and they make some smart choices, some good choices, but there's really nothing here that's just like, wow. Like, when's the next time I'm going to watch this movie? I don't know. I thought it was a decent movie. It was fine. It's great on the big screen. That's it. So 52%. Audience score, which for these types of movies, they tend to be more forgiving, because people are going to see this. They obviously,
a movie like this is probably going to have higher audience scores because who's going to see the Jurassic Park movies? Fans of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, whatever you want to call it. The Jurassic fans are going to go see this movie because they're excited for this. It's at a 72%. Better than 52, not great. And that's because it's not a uberly, is that even a word? Uberly? It's not an extremely great movie, and I don't know if it's the annoying characters that just really turned me off. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's just like, shut up. And it just was really annoying. So I don't know what does this mean. And I think they're talking about like, oh, could we make like another trilogy out of these movies? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if they have the ideas, they could. Now, this movie, the budget was $180 million, which seems, because I think that might be lower than F1's budget, which is kind of crazy. It's made at this point like $30.5 million, and I think they're talking about, 5-day opening weekend. They said the projected was between 115 to 135 million, but it made 30.5 on its opening day, which led to projections increasing to 133.5 million. So they're saying that it's probably going to make like 133.5 for the 5 days. Okay, so I guess that's not bad, and I don't remember if this is domestic. So if we're talking 180 million, will it be profitable? Maybe. I mean, this movie's so, it seems like no one's going into theaters. I don't know. My theater, man, I saw it on Wednesday, and they had it playing on so many different screens, and I don't know if they're going to keep that the entire time, or maybe it's just the first, because before 4th of July. I don't know. So it was a fine movie. It was, I guess I would say it was, I don't even know if I want to say it's a good movie. I mean, like I said, it had some cool moments, but yeah, it's just, the annoying characters were a bit much. Great dinosaurs, great visuals, great, what the locations or CG I don't know. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that bother me. I guess I was entertained. So I guess I would lean more favorable than negative about this movie. It just, yeah, it was fine. It was a good movie, but I wouldn't say it was great. If you are a Jurassic fan, I think you would like this. Just seeing the dinosaurs and seeing the different things and seeing the laboratory. I mean, there's some cool moments. And I think, I don't know if it was Gareth Edwards, someone, or maybe it was the writer, David Coep, went back and rewatched the other movies and reread the book or something like that to pick up, and I think they included some parts from the book that were left out or something like that. They just really wanted to make sure they captured everything. So I respect that. That's great. It's just, it's too bad that you have to have these annoying characters to push the story along, because without them, it would just be kind of flat, where you just have this mercenary team and a scientist and a pharmaceutical guy trying to get these samples. You don't have really anything else, because you need the civilians fighting for their lives, trying to survive, to kind of balance things. I just wish they weren't as, so annoying. So there you go. So that was Jurassic World Rebirth. Will we get another one? Probably, but yeah, we'll see. If they do, hopefully Scarlett Johansson will be in it. We'll see what happens next. So that's it. It, like I said, if you are a fan, it's worth seeing in a big screen. You want to see in a big screen with a big sound system, just so you can really appreciate all that. So that is going to be it, and that's going to be it for this week's podcast. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He's a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I had recently been doing a bunch of looking back at the Hobgoblin, the early appearances, looking at those Amazing Spider-Man comics. I probably will continue because I want to get to the point where we find out his actual identity and we see like some of the other misleads and whatever. But I believe I'm going to go back. I'm going to rewatch Rogue One after finally finishing Star Wars Andor and just, talk about the movie and little things and how seamless does the Andor ending and Rogue One fit together. But if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. And that's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. So and again, I need the support. That's a big reason why I'm not going to Comic-Con. Boo-hoo, Tony. I'm going to be very sad. I got my Comic-Con badge in the mail, but I can't get a hotel. And I just can't bring myself to pay for this. Maybe, hopefully next year. We'll see. Next week we have Superman. This week Superman comes out, so you hear about that next week. I want to be excited. I am looking forward to this. I'm sure it's going to be fun and everything like that. I feel like I'm seeing too much, and I've mentioned before all the little quirky ads. I don't need all that, and it's going to be interesting to see. I did see a trailer that I had avoided seeing online when I saw Jurassic World. There was a new Superman trailer, and there was also a new Fantastic Four trailer I hadn't seen. And it looks good and all that. I am a little concerned that there's too many other characters. I'm sure it'll be cool, and it's also important to establish, okay, this DC new universe exists. Everyone's there, and it would make sense that you have these other existing characters. And it's not like, oh, here's Superman. Oh, wait, now here's a Green Lantern. Oh, now here's this. Now here's that. They're all out there somewhere. So, okay. So we'll have Superman next week. So I guess I'm looking forward to it. I'm just, we'll see. So fingers crossed. It's great. I'm sure it will be. And then, we'll have Murderbot, Ironheart, Squid Game. We'll see if I just do one Squid Game or 2. And now, even with that, I'm hesitant. One, I'm do people want to hear about Squid Game 3? Or the fact that we get to that point where all 6 episodes are out, and I've only covered 1 so far. So, I don't know. We'll see. But other than that, I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope nothing else pops up that messes things up for me, because this past week was so stressful. I think I mentioned, having the possibility of jury duty and then my car. But I hope you are doing well. I hope you had if you're in the United States, I hope you had a happy, safe 4th of July. If you're elsewhere in the world, I hope you are doing well. Also, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing fun things. I hope you remember, be good to each other.